I stand frozen in the doorway of Ryan's apartment, my birthday cupcake with its single candle trembling in my hand. There they are again. My best friend Lily and Ryan locked in a passionate kiss on his couch, oblivious to my presence. The scene is painfully familiar, a perfect recreation of how I found them in my first life. Except this time, I'm not surprised. This time, I've orchestrated it all. Happy birthday to me, I whisper, my lips curving into a smile, as my phone silently records everything. They break apart at the sound of my voice, their faces morphing from passion to shock in an instant. It's a delicious tableau. Ryan's hands still tangled in Lily's blonde hair. Her lipstick smeared across his mouth, the same mouth that told me yesterday he was too sick to celebrate my birthday. Mel! Lily scrambles off his lap, her dress twisted around her thighs. This isn't... I hold up my hand, cutting off the lie I've heard before. Don't bother. Ryan stands now, running his hands through his disheveled hair. You should have called before coming over. His voice holds more annoyance than guilt, exactly like last time. The apartment smells like her perfume and his cologne, a sickening combination that used to make my stomach knot with betrayal. Now it just fuels me. I did call, 6 times. I set the cupcake on his entryway table with exaggerated care. But I guess you were too busy to check your phone. Lily steps toward me, her eyes filling with practiced tears. Mel, please let me explain. There's nothing to explain. My voice is calm, controlled, so different from the first time when I screamed and begged them both to tell me it wasn't real. I just came to drop off Ryan's medicine. I pull the small pharmacy bag from my purse and place it next to the cupcake. Since he was too sick to meet me. Ryan's eyes dart from me to the bag, confusion clouding his features. He doesn't remember telling me he was sick because in this life, we never made birthday plans. I planted that false memory when I called him yesterday, knowing exactly where it would lead. He starts. Check your texts, I say with a sympathetic smile. You probably forgot with your fever. He reaches for his phone as Lily hovers awkwardly between us, her perfect face crumbling. She was my best friend for 8 years in both lives. She held my hand at my mother's cancer scare, helped me study for my marketing exams, promised to be my maid of honor one day. And just like before, she couldn't resist taking what was mine. I should go, I say, turning to leave. Neither moves to stop me. At the door, I pause, unable to resist the final touch. Oh, and Lily? You might want to check your Instagram. I think my story just went live. The color drains from her face as she lunges for her phone. Ryan still stands frozen, staring at his text history where he'll find messages he doesn't remember sending. I close the door on their panicked voices and walk calmly to the elevator. Inside, I finally let myself exhale, leaning against the cool metal wall. The cupcake was a nice touch. Sentimental, pathetic even. Exactly what they'd expect from the old Melanie, but I'm not her anymore. I haven't been since I woke up 3 years ago with memories of a life already lived. A life where Ryan and Lily's betrayal was just the beginning of my unraveling. My phone buzzes as the elevator reaches the lobby. 14 notifications and counting. The video is spreading faster than I anticipated. Outside, the September evening wraps around me like a familiar coat. I hail a cab and give the driver my address, then settle back to watch my phone light up with messages of shock and support from our mutual friends. Sorry this happened to you, Mel. OMG, I can't believe they would do this. Call me if you need anything. Each ping represents another person who will distance themselves from Lily, another crack in the perfect facade she's built. By tomorrow, Ryan will be fielding uncomfortable questions at work about why he's trending in our company's internal chat. By next week, the whispers will follow them both everywhere they go. The cab pulls up outside my apartment building. Not the cramped studio I had in my first life, but a sleek one-bedroom with city views I could afford now that I'd risen quickly through the company ranks, armed with foreknowledge of every industry shift and campaign success. I pay the driver and step out, tilting my face to the night sky. In my previous life, this betrayal broke me. I lost my job, my confidence, eventually even my apartment when depression made it impossible to function. Not this time. This time, I'm 3 steps ahead of everyone who tried to destroy me. Ryan and Lily's public humiliation is just the opening move in a game they don't even know they're playing. I unlock my door, kick off my heels, and pour myself a glass of champagne I'd chilled earlier. A toast to new beginnings. A toast to revenge served cold. My phone rings, Lily's tearful face lighting up the screen. I send her to voicemail and curl up on my window seat, watching the city sparkle below. Let her panic tonight. Let them both lose sleep wondering what happens next. Because while they think this is the crisis, it's barely the beginning. The dominoes are falling exactly as I planned, and I've had an entire second life to arrange them perfectly. Later that night, I stare at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, the glow of my laptop illuminating my face from the bedroom. On screen, social media notifications continue to explode as the video spreads through our friend group. My fingers hover over the keyboard, tempted to respond to the most dramatic reactions, but I refrain. The wounded party shouldn't appear too calculating. I splash water on my face and pat it dry, studying the woman looking back at me. In my first life, I was 32 when Ryan and Lily's betrayal destroyed me. I lost everything, including myself, in the aftermath. Now I'm 29 again, armed with the knowledge of every mistake I made, every weakness others exploited. My rebirth came with no explanation, no spiritual guide, or divine message. Just a second chance I never asked for, but instantly knew how to use. My phone buzzes on the counter. A text from Lily. Please call me, I can explain. I almost laugh. What could she possibly explain? That she wanted Ryan more than she valued our friendship? That she convinced herself I didn't really love him anyway? I heard all her justifications in my previous life, watched her tears, even forgave her eventually when I was at my lowest and needed any human connection. Her betrayal hurt, but it was Ryan who truly destroyed me. Ryan, who proposed after 2 years together, promising forever while already sleeping with my best friend. Ryan, who turned our mutual colleagues against me with whispers about my emotional instability when I discovered their affair. Ryan, who made me doubt my own talent, my own worth, until I could barely function. I turn away from the mirror and walk back to my bedroom, where my laptop screen shows another incoming message, this one from Ryan. We need to talk. This isn't what you think. I close the laptop without responding. Let him squirm. Let him worry about what other evidence I might have. Let him wonder how his carefully constructed image will survive this scandal. In my previous life, Ryan emerged unscathed while I was labeled the crazy ex. His career soared while mine imploded. He and Lily flaunted their relationship at industry events I couldn't even get invited to anymore. I slip into bed and set my alarm for 6 a.m. Tomorrow is a workday, and I need to look appropriately distressed but professional when I arrive at the office. The right balance of dignity and vulnerability will cement my position as the victim in this story. As I drift towards sleep, I mentally review the next phases of my plan. The video was just the first step, public but ultimately harmless. The real revenge requires patience, precision, and the intimate knowledge of their weaknesses that only someone who has watched them destroy her once before could possess. My last thought before sleep claims me is of Mr. Chen, the mysterious investor I haven't met yet in this timeline. In my previous life, he appeared when everything had already fallen apart. This time, I'll be ready when our paths cross. This time, everything will be different. At work Monday morning, the elevator doors slide open to reveal Ryan waiting, his eyes bloodshot and desperate. The cologne I once found irresistible now makes my stomach turn. He looks like he hasn't slept in days, though it's been less than 48 hours since my birthday cupcake delivery. Mel, I've been trying to reach you all weekend, he pleads, touching my arm as I step into the elevator. I move back slightly, maintaining professional courtesy, while the 2 other people in the elevator pretend not to eavesdrop. Everyone in the office knows by now. The video made sure of that. I need those quarterly projections by noon, I say, my voice steady despite the wild drumming of my heart. I focus on the elevator buttons, pressing 14 with deliberate calm. His confusion is delicious. He doesn't yet understand that in this second chance at life, I'm playing an entirely different game. Last time, I was the marketing assistant dating the rising star account executive. This time, I've positioned myself as his equal, leveraging my foreknowledge of industry trends to impress our bosses early. Mel, please. He tries again, lowering his voice. What happened Saturday? It wasn't planned. Lily came over to talk about you, about your birthday dinner. One thing led to another. The elevator stops on the 10th floor. The other passengers exit, leaving us alone. Save it, Ryan. I finally meet his eyes. I don't care what excuse you've crafted. I just need those projections for the Henderson meeting. Fuck the projections. His composure cracks exactly as I knew it would. Ryan always lashes out when cornered. We've been dating for 8 months. You don't get to just shut down and act like nothing happened. Dating for 8 months. The words hit differently now. In my previous life, we were engaged after 2 years when I caught them. This time, I've orchestrated everything to happen sooner, before my heart could become fully invested again. The elevator reaches my floor and I step out. 3 hours until the meeting, Ryan. Don't make me ask Diana for someone else to partner with me on this account. His face pales at the mention of Diana, our division head who's made it clear that I'm her protege this time around. Another calculated change from my first life. You wouldn't. Try me. I walk away without looking back, feeling his eyes boring into me as the elevator doors close. At my desk, I take a moment to compose myself. Playing the glacially calm professional exhausts me in ways screaming never did. But it's working. I can see it in the respectful nods from colleagues who would have whispered behind my back last time. In the supportive email from Diana asking if I need personal time. In the growing unease on Ryan's face as he realizes he can't predict or control my reactions anymore. I open my laptop and start preparing for the Henderson meeting. The projections Ryan is supposed to provide aren't actually essential. I already have all the data I need. It's just another test, another way to showcase his unreliability to everyone watching. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. We should talk about Ryan. Lunch today? Emma, Ryan's sister. The wild card I've been waiting for. In my previous life, Emma pretended to be my friend while feeding information back to her brother. This time, I'll use her against him before she even realizes what game we're playing. Café Bleu at 12:30, I text back. The morning passes in a blur of meetings and sympathetic glances from coworkers. At 11:45, Ryan emails the projections. Sloppy work with obvious errors I'll need to correct before the meeting. Exactly what I expected. I grab my coat and head out for lunch, mentally preparing for Emma's manipulative sympathy. The cool September air feels bracing against my skin, a reminder that I'm alive, that this second chance is real. The cafe is crowded when I arrive, but I spot Emma immediately, her dark hair and sharp features so similar to Ryan's. She waves me over, her face arranged in a mask of concern that doesn't reach her eyes. Mel, I'm so sorry about what happened, she says as I slide into the booth across from her. I had no idea Ryan would do something like this. The lie comes easily to her, just as it did before. Last time I believed her, desperate for any ally in the aftermath. This time, I know better. Didn't you? I say mildly, opening my menu. That's surprising, considering you knew about him and Lily in college. Her coffee cup freezes halfway to her lips. This is information I couldn't possibly have. It's from my previous life. Something Emma let slip months after the engagement ended, when she thought I was too broken to use it against her brother. What are you talking about? She recovers quickly, but the damage is done. I've unsettled her, changed the dynamic. Let's not pretend, Emma. I close the menu and meet her gaze directly. You're here to assess the damage. See how much trouble Ryan's in. I get it. You're being a good sister. She sets down her cup, her friendly facade slipping. He made a mistake. He feels terrible. I'm sure he does. I smile, signaling the waiter for sparkling water. Being caught usually feels terrible. Emma leans forward, dropping her voice. What do you want, Mel? To humiliate him? Congratulations, mission accomplished. I don't want anything. The waiter arrives with my water, and I thank him before continuing. That video was an accident. I didn't mean to post it publicly. Another lie, but one that makes me seem less calculating. Emma studies my face, trying to determine if I'm telling the truth. So you'll take it down? She asks finally. It's already been shared hundreds of times. Taking it down now won't matter. I shrug, as if this bothers me. Besides, everyone at work already knows. Emma's eyes narrow slightly. She's smarter than Ryan, always has been. You seem different. calmer than I expected. For a moment, I wonder if she suspects something, if she can somehow sense that I'm not the same Melanie they knew before. But that's impossible. No one knows about my rebirth, my second chance. Not even Mr. Chen, when I eventually meet him, will fully understand what's happened to me. Getting cheated on gives you perspective, I say, taking a sip of my water. Some things that seemed important before suddenly don't matter at all. The waiter returns for our orders. Emma gets a salad. I choose soup. When he leaves, she tries a different approach. Ryan says you're freezing him out at work, that you're trying to sabotage the Henderson account. I raise an eyebrow. By asking for accurate projections? If that's sabotage, our standards are lower than I thought. You know what I mean? Her voice hardens. If you damage his professional reputation because of personal issues... Stop! I cut her off, my voice still pleasant but firm. Your brother sent me subpar work this morning that would have embarrassed us both in front of the client. I fixed it. If anything, I'm protecting his reputation. Emma seems momentarily at a loss for words, unprepared for this version of me who won't be manipulated or threatened. In my previous life, I was so afraid of conflict, so desperate to be liked. That woman feels like a stranger now. Look, I continue, softening my tone. I'm not out to destroy Ryan. What happened, happened. I just want to do my job without drama. This reassurance, completely false, visibly relaxes her. People believe what they want to believe, and Emma wants to think I'm harmless. Our food arrives, and we eat in silence for a few minutes. I can almost see her recalibrating, adjusting her approach based on this new understanding of me. He really did care about you, she says finally. He's a mess right now. I nod as if this matters to me. Time heals. He and Lily will be fine. Lily? Emma's surprise seems genuine. He's not with Lily. He told her it was a mistake, that he wanted to try to fix things with you. Interesting. In my previous life, they stayed together after the betrayal, flaunting their relationship while I crumbled. This deviation from the script is unexpected, but ultimately irrelevant. That's between them, I say dismissively. I've already moved on. Emma studies me with new interest. To what? Or to whom? I smile enigmatically and check my watch. I should get back. The Henderson meeting is at 2. As I stand to leave, Emma catches my wrist. Ryan thinks you've turned everyone at work against him. Diana's been criticizing his performance, questioning his commitment. I gently remove her hand. That sounds like an issue between Ryan and Diana, nothing to do with me. But we both know that's not true. In this life, I have carefully positioned myself as Diana's favorite, sharing insights about market trends that seem brilliant but are actually just foreknowledge from my first go-around. I've subtly highlighted Ryan's weaknesses while appearing to defend him. I've laid the groundwork for his professional downfall so carefully that even he doesn't see it coming. Be careful, Mel, Emma says as I turn to leave. You're playing a dangerous game. The warning sends a chill through me, so similar to what she said in my previous life when everything was already falling apart. But this time, the power dynamic is reversed. No game, I reply with a small smile. Just life. I walk out of the cafe into the bright afternoon sun, allowing myself a moment of satisfaction. Emma will report back to Ryan that I seem fine, perhaps suspiciously so. His paranoia will grow. He'll make mistakes at work, lash out at the wrong people, accelerate his own undoing. And I'll be there, watching it all unfold, one carefully arranged domino at a time. The Henderson meeting goes exactly as I planned. I present our strategy flawlessly, stepping in smoothly when Ryan fumbles numbers I deliberately left out of my prep notes to him. Diana notices everything, her sharp eyes missing nothing as she watches him struggle while I salvage the presentation. Excellent work, Melanie, she says afterward, pointedly excluding Ryan from her praise. The client was very impressed with your insights. Ryan's jaw tightens, but he says nothing as Diana walks away. Once she's out of earshot, he turns to me, frustration radiating from him in waves. You set me up, he hisses, gripping his portfolio so tightly his knuckles turn white. I tilt my head, the picture of innocence. By giving you the chance to present to our biggest client? Most people would say thank you. You know exactly what I mean. He steps closer, and for a moment, I glimpse the man who destroyed me in my previous life, entitled, arrogant, used to getting his way. The numbers in the meeting didn't match what you sent me. Maybe you should double check your work next time. I gather my notes calmly. Or focus less on your personal drama and more on your job. The comment hits its mark. Several colleagues glance our way, no doubt remembering the viral video of him with Lily. In my first life, Ryan controlled the narrative after our breakup, painting me as unstable and unprofessional. This time, I've flipped the script. This isn't over, he says quietly before walking away. I watch him go, a familiar rush of satisfaction warming my chest. It's not over, it's barely begun. That evening, I meet Lily at our usual cafe, sliding into the booth across from her tear-streaked face. The bitter espresso scent mingles with her familiar perfume as she clutches my hands. I never meant to hurt you, she sobs. It just happened, and we were both so... So what? I interrupt, pulling my hands away gently. Drunk, lonely, overcome with passion you couldn't possibly control? She flinches at my tone but pushes on. Ryan and I, it wasn't planned, and it meant nothing to him. He told me right afterward that it was a mistake. I take a slow sip of my tea, studying her over the rim of my cup. Lily looks terrible, her usually perfect makeup smudged, her designer clothes wrinkled. In our first life, she never showed this level of remorse, too busy enjoying her victory. So you came here for what? Forgiveness? I ask. I came because you're my best friend. Her voice cracks on the word friend, and I have to stop myself from laughing at the irony. 8 years, Mel. That has to count for something. 8 years of friendship didn't stop her from taking Ryan the first time. But she doesn't know that. Can't possibly understand that for me, it's been much longer, with all the painful lessons learned. You're right, I say, softening my expression. 8 years does count for something. Hope flickers across her face. Really? It counts for enough that I'll hear you out. I lean back, crossing my arms. So, tell me, was Ryan worth it? Worth our friendship? Worth your reputation at work? Worth the dozens of messages I've gotten from people telling me what a terrible person you are? The color drains from her face. People are saying that? I nod solemnly. The video has made quite an impression. People take sides in these situations. But it was just a kiss, she protests, her voice rising enough that a couple at the next table glances over. One stupid mistake. A mistake you made in front of a camera, I remind her. Bad timing. Lily's eyes narrow slightly. You didn't mention you were recording? I wasn't planning to. I lie smoothly. I was going to surprise Ryan with his medicine and my birthday cupcake. My phone was already recording to capture his reaction. She seems to accept this, desperation making her gullible. I can fix this, she says, more to herself than to me. I can talk to people, explain what happened. That might make things worse, I suggest carefully. Better to let it blow over naturally. But my job. Her voice trails off as she realizes the professional implications. In my previous life, Lily worked at a competing agency. This time, I made sure we ended up in the same company, though in different departments. Her affair with a colleague, especially one in a relationship, violates the morality clause in our contracts. I'm sure the HR review will be fair, I say, with just enough concern to seem genuine. Her head snaps up. HR review? Oh, I feign surprise. I thought you knew. Someone filed a complaint about workplace impropriety. Was it you? Her voice turns accusatory, the first flash of the real Lily breaking through her remorseful facade. I give her a wounded look. No, it wasn't me, but it was only a matter of time with the video circulating. She deflates again, slumping back against the booth. This can't be happening. I reach across the table and take her hand, the perfect picture of a forgiving friend. We'll get through this. You made a mistake, but it doesn't define you. The irony of comforting her almost makes me laugh out loud. In my previous life, Lily never apologized. Not when she took Ryan, not when they excluded me from industry events, not even years later when their relationship eventually fell apart. Thank you, she whispers, squeezing my hand. You're a better friend than I deserve. Probably, I agree with a small smile. But what are friends for? Beneath the table, I press send on an email to her boss, containing evidence of the client information she's been stealing to launch her own agency. In this life, I made sure to discover her side hustle early, documenting everything while playing the supportive confidant. Some betrayals can't be helped, I say softly. But I wonder, what else haven't you told me? Her eyes widen slightly, a flicker of unease crossing her face. What do you mean? Nothing specific, I assure her. It's just been a revealing few days, hasn't it? We finish our drinks in tense silence, Lily clearly wondering what else I might know. As we leave the cafe, she hugs me tightly, whispering another apology in my ear. I hug her back, the perfect picture of forgiveness, while my mind races ahead to next week when her boss will discover her duplicity and her professional reputation will crumble just as mine did in my previous life. Take care of yourself, I tell her as we part ways on the sidewalk. I mean it in a way. She should take care of herself because no one else will. Not Ryan, who's already distancing himself, and certainly not me, the friend she betrayed twice across 2 lifetimes. My sister Emma arrives unannounced at my apartment the following evening, her designer bag thumping on my countertop. "You've gone too far with Lily," she says, pacing my small kitchen. "Everyone's talking about it." I pour her the expensive wine she pretends to afford and watch her drink deeply. Emma always had expensive tastes that exceeded her administrative salary, a problem she solved in my previous life by stealing my identity for loans after Ryan and I split. "I haven't done anything to Lily," I reply calmly. "The video was unfortunate, but hardly my fault." Emma snorts in disbelief. "Ryan says you're acting strange, cold, like a different person." If she only knew how accurate that observation is. I am a different person, one who's lived through the destruction they caused and come back determined to rewrite the story. "Betrayal changes people," I say simply. She studies me over the rim of her wineglass, her eyes so similar to Ryan's it momentarily unsettles me. "It's more than that. You're calculating now." I laugh, the sound genuine. "Because I didn't fall apart? Because I'm not begging Ryan to take me back or crying over Lily's betrayal? Is that what you all expected?" "Kind of, yeah." Her honesty surprises me. The old Mel would have been devastated. The old Mel. If only she knew about the years of pain that version of me endured, the therapy, the financial struggles, the loss of confidence that took nearly a decade to rebuild. "People grow up," I say with a shrug. "Speaking of growing up, remember when you borrowed my identity for that loan last year?" Her glass stops midway to her lips, a question forming in her eyes. "What are you talking about?" I smile and slide a bank statement across the counter. One I've been saving since I discovered her theft early in this second chance. "I wonder how your new fiancé would feel about that debt you're hiding." Emma's face drains of color as she stares at the paper. "How did you find this?" "I was so careful." "Careful enough to use my old address, but not careful enough to forward the statements." Another lie. In this life, I went looking for the evidence I remembered from before. "Mel, I can explain—" "No need," I interrupt, taking the statement back. "I'm not going to tell David, yet." The threat hangs between us, clear but unstated. Emma sets down her glass, her hand trembling slightly. "What do you want?" she asks, her voice small. "Nothing right now." I fold the paper and return it to a drawer. "Just reminding you that we all have secrets, some more damaging than others." She stares at me like she's seeing me for the first time. "Who are you? Really?" The question hits closer to home than she could possibly know. Who am I? The same Melanie who lived through betrayal and destruction, now armed with foreknowledge and determination? Or someone new entirely, shaped by memories of a life no one else remembers? "I'm just someone who learned her lessons the hard way," I answer, refilling her glass. "Now tell me about the wedding plans. Still set for June." The abrupt change of subject disorients her, but self-interest quickly takes over as she launches into details about venues and flowers. I listen attentively, playing the supportive sister while mentally cataloging every extravagance she can't possibly afford on her salary, or with her credit now ruined by the fraudulent loan. When she leaves an hour later, I can see the confusion on her face. She came to confront me about Lily, but leaves worried about her own secrets instead. The power dynamic between us has shifted, and she doesn't understand why or how. I close the door behind her and lean against it, suddenly exhausted. Playing these roles, understanding friend to Lily, calm professional with Ryan, supportive sister to Emma, drains me in ways I hadn't anticipated. In my previous life, I was genuine with everyone, wearing my heart on my sleeve. The transparency made me vulnerable. This calculated version of myself is safer, but lonelier. I push away from the door and head to my bedroom, where my journal waits in the bottom drawer of my nightstand. Inside are detailed notes of my previous life, events, dates, relationships, betrayals, all written in a code only I understand. It's my roadmap for this second chance, my insurance against forgetting any crucial detail. I add today's interactions with Lily and Emma, noting the slight deviations from my first life. Emma's early suspicion is unexpected. Lily's genuine remorse is different too. Last time she justified the affair as real love, that I should support as her friend. These changes remind me that while I have the advantage of foreknowledge, I'm still navigating new territory. The past isn't repeating exactly, it's rhyming, with variations I need to monitor carefully. I close the journal and hide it away again. Tomorrow brings the next phase of my plan, a critical meeting where Ryan will make a fatal professional mistake, one I've carefully engineered through misinformation and strategic timing. As I prepare for bed, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. We should meet. Tomorrow, 9 p.m. The Jade Dragon. My heart skips a beat. The Jade Dragon was where I first met Mr. Chen in my previous life, but not until years after Ryan and Lily's betrayal, when I was struggling to rebuild my career from the ashes. I stare at the message, possibilities racing through my mind. It's too early for our paths to cross naturally. Either this is an incredible coincidence or Mr. Chen remembers too. The Jade Dragon sits in a nondescript building in Chinatown, its entrance marked only by a small green sign. Inside, the restaurant feels like stepping into another world. Lanterns casting golden light over dark wood tables, the air fragrant with ginger and star anise. I arrive 15 minutes early, dressed carefully in a simple black dress that won't attract attention. The hostess leads me to a private room in the back without asking my name, confirming my suspicion that this meeting is exactly what I think it is. The room contains a single round table with a lazy Susan at its center. I take a seat facing the door and wait, my pulse quickening with each passing minute. At precisely 9 p.m., the beaded curtain parts and an elderly Chinese man enters. Mr. Chen looks exactly as I remember him from my previous life, slender, elegant, with sharp eyes that seem to see through pretense. He moves with the fluid grace of someone half his apparent age. Miss Parker, he says, his voice soft but clear. Thank you for coming. He sits across from me, folding his hands on the table. A server appears silently with a pot of tea, pouring for both of us before disappearing again. How did you get my number? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. Mr. Chen smiles slightly. A practical question. I admire that. He takes a sip of his tea. Let us say I have resources. In my previous life, Mr. Chen was a reclusive billionaire who made his fortune in international shipping before turning to more arcane interests. He became my mentor after we met by chance at this very restaurant, taking an unexpected interest in my struggling career. That's not an answer, I say. No, he agrees, but perhaps not the most important question you could be asking. The tea tastes exactly as I remember, delicate, slightly smoky, unlike anything available in ordinary shops. I set my cup down carefully. All right, why did you want to meet me? Mr. Chen studies me for a long moment. Because you are like me, he says finally. You remember. The words hang in the air between us, impossible yet undeniable. My hands begin to tremble, and I hide them in my lap. Remember what? I ask, playing for time as my mind races. A life already lived. His gaze is unwavering. Choices made, consequences suffered, endings reached, and then, inexplicably, a return to an earlier point. A second chance that most never receive. My throat tightens with emotion I hadn't expected. For 3 years since my rebirth, I've carried these memories alone, unable to share them with anyone, sometimes questioning my own sanity. How did you know? I whisper. There are signs for those who know what to look for. He gestures vaguely. Decisions too prescient, success too perfectly timed, and something in the eyes. A depth of experience that doesn't match the apparent age. I take another sip of tea to steady myself. Are there others, like us? Few, he answers, very few. In all my years, and I have lived this particular life 3 times now, I have encountered only 7 others who remember. 3 times. The implication staggers me. My one rebirth seemed miraculous enough, but to live multiple cycles. Why, I ask, the question encompassing everything. Why me? Why him? Why any of this is possible? That, Mr. Chen says with a slight smile, is the question I hoped you might help me answer. For the first time since my rebirth, I feel completely off balance. I came to this meeting thinking I might find answers, but instead find only more questions. I don't understand any of this, I admit. I just woke up one morning, 3 years ago, back in my 26-year-old body with all my memories intact. No explanation, no instructions. Mr. Chen nods. It was the same for me the first time. One moment dying in a hospital bed at 92, the next waking as a young man of 20, with 8 decades of memories no one else shared. And you don't know why it happens. I have theories. He pours more tea for both of us. In my experience, rebirth comes to those who face great injustice or leave important work unfinished. The universe, perhaps, offering a chance to balance scales. Great injustice. The words resonate with me, validating the path I've chosen in this second life. What Ryan and Lily did to me, the betrayal, the professional sabotage, the years of struggle that followed, it was an injustice. One I'm now correcting. You're using your knowledge to settle scores, Mr. Chen observes, reading my thoughts with uncomfortable accuracy. To remake your life by undoing the damage others caused. I straighten my shoulders, suddenly defensive. Wouldn't you? If you had the chance to prevent your own destruction? I did, he says simply. In my second life, I devoted myself to revenge against those who had wronged me in the first. I succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. Something in his tone makes me uneasy. And I discovered that revenge, however complete, did not bring the satisfaction I sought. His eyes hold mine. By my third rebirth, I had learned to seek balance instead. The server returns with small plates of food I don't remember ordering. Delicate dumplings, fragrant rice, vegetables, and glistening sauce. Mr. Chen gestures for me to eat, and I realize I'm starving. What do you mean by balance, thanks, I ask, selecting a dumpling. Acting with awareness of consequences. He takes a small portion of rice. Understanding that changing fate too dramatically creates ripples that affect everyone connected to you. The dumpling tastes perfect. Savory, complex, comforting. I swallow before responding. I'm careful, no one suspects anything unusual. Are you certain? He asks mildly. Your sister seemed quite troubled by the change in you. And the man, Ryan, he senses something too. I set down my chopsticks, suddenly cold. You've been watching me. Observing, he corrects, since I noticed the signs 3 months ago. Your meteoric rise at work caught my attention. Too perfectly timed, too precisely executed. The idea that he's been monitoring my life without my knowledge should frighten me, but instead, I feel a strange relief. Finally, someone who understands what I'm experiencing, who doesn't think I'm crazy or delusional. What do you want from me? I ask. A better question is what I can offer you. Mr. Chen dabs his lips with a napkin. Guidance, perspective from someone who has walked this unusual path before you. And what would you advise? I can't keep the edge from my voice. Forgiveness for those who destroyed me once and would do it again given the chance? I would advise awareness. His voice remains calm despite my sharpness. The path of revenge seems straight and clear, but it branches in unexpected ways. Actions have consequences beyond what we can foresee, even with our unusual advantage. I think of Lily's tears in the cafe, genuine in a way they never were in my previous life. Of Ryan's confusion as his world unravels for reasons he can't quite grasp. of Emma's unsettled expression when she left my apartment. They deserve what's coming to them, I say, but with less conviction than before. Perhaps, Mr. Chen concedes. But consider this. In changing your fate so dramatically, you may be changing theirs beyond recognition as well. And that creates instability. What kind of instability? He considers his words carefully. In my experience, when one with our gift alters the natural flow of events too severely, the universe seeks to restore balance, sometimes through unexpected means. You're being cryptic, I say, frustration edging my voice, because the truth is complex. He leans forward slightly. Have you noticed anything unusual, dreams perhaps, or flashes of memory that don't belong to either of your lives? I think of Ryan's text from the other day, the one I ignored. I keep having these weird dreams about us, about a different life. Am I going crazy? Why? I ask instead of answering. Because dramatic changes to fate can have unexpected effects. In rare cases, others connected to the reborn may begin to remember, not fully, not like us, but in fragments. Dreams, déjà vu, intuitions that seem to come from nowhere. The implication hits me like a physical blow. Are you saying Ryan might remember what happened in my first life? It's possible, Mr. Chen says gently. The more dramatically you alter events, the more likely such echoes become. The room suddenly feels too warm, the air too thick. If Ryan remembers, if he connects the dots between his strange dreams and my inexplicable behavior, my carefully orchestrated revenge falls apart. What can I do? I ask, hating the note of desperation in my voice. Mr. Chen reaches into his pocket and removes a small jade figurine, placing it on the table between us. It depicts a fox with multiple tails, eyes made of tiny garnets. This offers some protection against the consequences of altering fate, he says. It cannot stop the ripples entirely, but it can direct them away from those you choose. I stare at the figurine, its green surface gleaming in the lantern light. Why would you help me? Because I remember how it feels to stand where you are now. His expression softens with an empathy I rarely see anymore. Powerful with foreknowledge, yet vulnerable in ways you don't yet understand. I reach for the figurine hesitantly. What's the catch? No catch. He sits back as I pick up the Jade Fox. Only a request that you consider carefully what sort of life you wish to build with your second chance. Revenge is one path. There are others. The figurine feels warm in my palm, inexplicably alive despite being stone. I'm not ready to forgive them, I say honestly. I'm not suggesting forgiveness, he replies, merely consideration of what comes after revenge. It ends more quickly than you might expect, leaving the rest of your second life stretching before you. The server returns with a pot of different tea, darker, more aromatic. As he pours, I slip the Jade Fox into my bag, already feeling oddly attached to it. Will I see you again? I ask as Mr. Chen rises to leave. When you need guidance, you'll find me. He inclines his head in a slight bow. Until then, Miss Parker, I suggest you proceed with care. Second chances are precious gifts, and like all gifts, can be squandered. He leaves as silently as he arrived, the beaded curtain whispering behind him. I remain seated, sipping the new tea and considering his words. The revelation that others might start remembering my first life changes everything, complicates the clean execution of my plans. Yet even as caution suggests I should slow down, another part of me burns with renewed urgency. If Ryan is already having dreams, already sensing something amiss, then the window for my perfect revenge may be closing faster than I anticipated. I finish my tea and leave payment on the table, though I suspect Mr. Chen has already settled the bill. Outside, the night air feels electric against my skin, charged with possibilities and dangers I'm only beginning to understand. My phone buzzes with a text from Ryan. We need to talk, not about us, about these weird dreams I'm having. Please, Mel, I think I'm losing my mind. I stare at the message for a long moment before slipping the phone back into my pocket without replying. The Jade Fox seems to grow warmer in my bag as I hail a taxi, my mind racing with implications and contingencies. Mr. Chen offered wisdom and caution, but he doesn't understand the depth of what was taken from me in my first life. The betrayal was just the beginning. What followed was systematic destruction, years of rebuilding from ashes. I can't stop now, even if the universe itself seems to be complicating my plans. Perhaps especially then. The taxi pulls away from the curb, carrying me back to my apartment where my journal waits with tomorrow's carefully plotted moves. Behind me, the small green sign of the Jade Dragon fades into the night, a beacon I suspect I'll return to sooner than I'd planned. The next morning, I arrive at work early, the Jade Fox figurine tucked safely in my desk drawer. My conversation with Mr. Chen left me unsettled. His warnings about fate and consequences circling my thoughts all night. I push them aside as I prepare for today's board meeting, the one where Ryan will make his critical mistake. In my previous life, this meeting never happened because I wasn't important enough to attend. Now, as Diana's protege, I have a front row seat to the professional execution I've orchestrated. My phone buzzes with another text from Ryan. Please respond. The dreams are getting worse. I saw us at an engagement party that never happened. I freeze, staring at the message. Mr. Chen was right. Ryan isn't just having random dreams. He's remembering fragments of our first life together. Before I can decide how to respond, Diana appears in my doorway, impeccably dressed as always, her silver hair swept into a sleek bun. Ready for the bloodbath? She asks with a tight smile. In this life, I cultivated Diana as a mentor early, impressing her with market insights I carried from my future knowledge. She doesn't know about my rebirth, of course, but she values my seemingly intuitive understanding of industry trends. As ready as I'll be, I reply, gathering my portfolio. Ryan's numbers don't add up, she says, keeping her voice low despite the empty hallway. The projections he submitted for the quarterly forecast are completely misaligned with the actual data. I nod, feigning concern while suppressing a surge of satisfaction. The misinformation I've been feeding him for weeks has done its work perfectly. Could it be a simple error? I ask, playing the role of fair-minded colleague. Diana snorts delicately. A 23% discrepancy isn't a simple error. It's either gross incompetence or deliberate deception. Neither reflects well on him. That's unfortunate, I murmur. Quite. She studies me with sharp eyes. You two were involved, weren't you? Before the incident with your friend. The incident being the viral video of Ryan and Lily's betrayal. I nod, letting her see a carefully measured amount of hurt in my expression. I hope that won't make today's meeting awkward for you, she continues. The board needs to hear exactly what happened with these numbers. My personal feelings don't affect my professional judgment, I assure her, the perfect company line. Good, she nods approvingly. That's why you're going places in this organization, Melanie. You understand priorities. If only she knew how my priorities have shaped every interaction since my rebirth. In my previous life, Diana was my mentor too, until she took credit for my biggest campaign, then laid me off when I needed the job most. Her betrayal came after Ryan and Lily's, when I was already vulnerable. This time, I've positioned myself as her indispensable right hand, gathering evidence of her more questionable decisions while earning her trust. Her downfall is scheduled for next quarter, after Ryan's career is already in ashes. We walk together to the conference room, a wall of glass overlooking the city skyline. Board members are already gathering, helping themselves to coffee from the sideboard. Ryan arrives last, his face pale with dark circles under his eyes. He tries to catch my eye, but I deliberately focus on my notes. The meeting begins with standard updates, budgets, client acquisitions, market projections. I present my portion flawlessly, earning approving nods from the senior executives. Then comes the quarterly forecast review. Ryan, I believe you have some explaining to do, the CFO says, sliding a report across the polished table. These numbers don't align with anything we're seeing in the actual data. All eyes turn to Ryan, who stares at the report with visible confusion. These aren't the projections I prepared. They have your signature, the CFO points out. Your department code, your submission timestamp? Ryan flips through the pages, growing more agitated. Someone must have altered them after I submitted them. These forecasts show a 20% drop in the Henderson account, but my original projections showed growth. The Henderson account is indeed down, Diana interjects smoothly. Melanie has been doing damage control for weeks. Ryan's head snaps up, his eyes finding mine with sudden comprehension. You, he says softly. You switched the reports. The accusation hangs in the air, shocking in its directness. I allow my expression to register hurt surprise, while my heart pounds with unexpected alarm. He wasn't supposed to confront me directly. He was supposed to flounder, make excuses, dig himself deeper. That's a serious allegation, Mr. Evans, the CEO says coldly. Do you have any evidence to support it? Ryan runs a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration I remember from our life together. I have the original reports on my laptop. If I could just... I think we've heard enough, Diana interrupts. Making unfounded accusations against colleagues rather than taking responsibility for your own errors is unprofessional and unacceptable. I watch the scene unfold with growing unease. This isn't proceeding exactly as I planned. Ryan should be confused, defensive, not connecting dots I've carefully kept separate. I'd like to respond to the accusation, I say, my voice calm despite my internal alarm. All eyes turn to me, including Ryan's, his filled with a mixture of betrayal and dawning recognition that chills me. I've worked closely with Ryan on the Henderson account from the beginning, I say. If there are errors in the projections, I share responsibility for not catching them sooner. However, I categorically deny tampering with any reports. It's the perfect response, professional, slightly self-deprecating, yet firm in rejecting his accusation. The board members nod approvingly while Diana gives me a subtle look that says I've handled it well. Ryan stares at me, and for a moment I see something flash in his eyes, not just anger or confusion, but a deeper recognition that shouldn't be possible. This meeting is adjourned while we investigate the discrepancies, the CEO announces. Ryan, I'd like to see you in my office. Diana, please join us. As the room empties, Ryan hangs back, waiting until we're alone before approaching me. Up close, he looks worse than I thought, exhausted, haunted. I remember, he says simply. My heart skips a beat. Remember what? Fragments, images, emotions. He steps closer, his voice dropping. I remember proposing to you in the park. I remember betraying you with Lily. I remember destroying your career afterward. The Jade Fox in my desk drawer suddenly feels miles away, its protection useless against this unexpected development. You sound delirious, I say, gathering my portfolio with hands I force not to tremble. Maybe you should take a personal day. Don't. His voice hardens. Don't pretend I'm imagining things. Something impossible is happening, and you know exactly what it is. I look up, meeting his gaze directly. Be careful with your accusations, Ryan. First tampering with reports, now. What? Past lives? Reincarnation? How do you think that will sound to the board? The threat lands as intended. He pales slightly, recognizing the precariousness of his position. But he doesn't back down. This isn't over, he says, echoing his words from days earlier, but with new meaning. I'm going to remember everything, Mel, and then we'll talk again. He walks out, leaving me alone in the conference room, my carefully constructed plans suddenly tilting on their axis. I sink back into my chair, mind racing. Mr. Chen warned me, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Ryan isn't just having vague dreams. He's actively remembering our previous life, piecing together fragments that directly connect to the revenge I'm executing. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. The ripples grow stronger. We should meet again. Sir, Mr. Chen, sensing the disturbance in my carefully arranged fate. I text back a single word. When? The response comes immediately. Tonight, same place. By afternoon, the news has spread throughout the office. Ryan has been suspended pending investigation of the financial discrepancies. Security escorts him through the office, a small box of belongings in his arms. Our colleagues whisper behind hands as he passes my office. I continue typing, seemingly absorbed in work, but carefully tracking his progress in my peripheral vision. Only when he stops at my doorway do I look up, expression neutral. Need something? I ask. The fluorescent lights highlight the dark circles under his eyes as he studies me with unsettling intensity. I'll remember everything, he says quietly. And when I do, you won't be able to hide behind that mask anymore. A chill runs through me, but I maintain my composure. I believe human resources can answer any remaining questions. As he turns to leave, I add, I hear Lily's looking for a roommate. Perfect timing for both of you. A flash of genuine confusion crosses his face. Lily? Why would I? He stops, shaking his head slightly as if trying to dislodge conflicting memories. The Lily I remember from my dreams isn't the same person I kissed at my apartment. The distinction disturbs me more than I want to admit. In my first life, Ryan and Lily stayed together for years after betraying me, flaunting their relationship while systematically destroying my professional reputation. In this life, their kiss seems to have been a momentary lapse, one I deliberately engineered by suggesting to Lily that Ryan had feelings for her. Security approaches, clearly uncomfortable with our extended conversation. Mr. Evans, we need to complete the exit process. Ryan gives me one last look that sends another chill through me. I'll see you soon, Mel, in one way or another. I watch him leave, my satisfaction at his professional downfall now tainted with unease. This wasn't simply revenge unfolding as planned. It was becoming something unstable, unpredictable. Exactly what Mr. Chen warned about. My office phone rings, Diana summoning me to her corner office. I smooth my skirt and head down the hallway, mentally shifting gears from Ryan's unsettling departure to the next phase of my plan. Diana's office showcases her success. Awards displayed prominently, floor-to-ceiling windows framing her corner of the city like it belongs to her. In my previous life, I admired this office from a distance, never imagining I'd be positioned to take it for myself. Close the door, she says without looking up from her computer. I comply, then take a seat across from her desk. She finishes typing before giving me her full attention. Ryan's been suspended, she says unnecessarily. The board is conducting a full audit of his accounts. I heard, I reply neutrally. His accusation against you was noted but dismissed, she continues. The timestamp data clearly shows you couldn't have accessed the reports after his submission. Of course it does. I altered the reports before he submitted them, replacing files on his laptop while he was distracted with Lily. A simple trick that would have gone undetected if he hadn't somehow sensed the manipulation through his fragmenting memories. That's a relief, I say, allowing a hint of genuine emotion to show. Being accused like that in front of the board was uncomfortable. Diana's expression softens slightly, as much as her carefully Botoxed face allows. You handled it perfectly, which brings me to my next point. She leans forward, elbows on her desk. With Ryan gone, we need a new account executive for Henderson. I'd like you to take over. In my previous life, I begged for this opportunity and was denied. This time, it falls into my lap exactly as planned. Are you sure? I ask, feigning modest hesitation. I've never led an account that size before. You've been doing the real work for months, Diana says dismissively. Ryan was just the pretty face in meetings. This makes the reality official. I allow a careful smile to form. Then I accept. Thank you for the opportunity. Don't thank me yet, she warns. The account is in trouble. Those declining numbers in Ryan's report weren't fabricated. Henderson is considering moving to a competitor. I nod soberly, though I already know this. In fact, I orchestrated it by accidentally misplacing key deliverables and scheduling meetings at times when the client couldn't make them. Small irritations that accumulated into dissatisfaction, all attributed to Ryan's mismanagement. I'll turn it around, I promise, and see that you do. Diana returns to her computer, our meeting clearly concluded. Your career trajectory depends on it. I leave her office, outwardly professional while inwardly savoring the irony. Diana thinks she's testing my capabilities, unaware that I've already lived this particular career challenge. In my previous life, I lost the Henderson account because Ryan and Lily sabotaged my pitch. This time, I'll not only save it, but use its success to position myself for Diana's job when her own downfall arrives. Back in my office, I close the door and sink into my chair, the morning's events catching up with me. Ryan's confrontation was unexpected, disturbing in its directness. If his fragmented memories are becoming clearer, my carefully orchestrated revenge could unravel before completion. I open my desk drawer and remove the Jade Fox, its cool surface warming under my touch. Mr. Chen said it offers protection against the consequences of altering fate, but how exactly does it work? Does simply possessing it shield me, or do I need to activate it somehow? My phone buzzes with a text from Lily. HR meeting scheduled for tomorrow. They found something on my computer. Did you say anything to them? Another piece falling into place. Her stolen client files discovered exactly on schedule. In this life, I anonymously tipped off IT security about her suspicious downloads, timing it to coincide with the aftermath of our cafe meeting when she'd be emotionally vulnerable. I haven't spoken to HR about you, I text back truthfully. What did they find? Her response comes quickly. Client contact lists, proposal drafts, strategy documents. They're saying I was planning to poach accounts. Were you? I ask, already knowing the answer. A long pause before, I was thinking about starting my own agency someday. Not poaching exactly, just being prepared. In my previous life, Lily successfully launched her agency using stolen materials from my accounts, then hired Ryan away from our company, completing my professional isolation. This time, her ambitions will die before they begin. I'm so sorry, I text back. Do you need a character witness at the meeting? Her grateful response makes my lips curve in a cold smile. She has no idea I'm the architect of her downfall, just as I had no idea she was the architect of mine in our previous life. I return the Jade Fox to my drawer as my computer chimes with a new email. The Henderson client confirming our emergency meeting tomorrow. Another piece moving perfectly into position. By the time I leave the office that evening, Ryan's desk has been cleared, his name removed from the company directory, his email already redirecting to mine. The swift erasure of his professional existence is both satisfying and sobering. In my previous life, it was my name that disappeared, my contributions that were reassigned to others. The autumn air feels bracing against my skin as I walk toward the Jade Dragon, my mind cycling through the day's developments. Ryan's accelerating memories pose a threat I hadn't anticipated, requiring adjustments to my timeline. Lily's professional disgrace is proceeding perfectly, but Emma's early suspicion needs management. And Diana's unwitting promotion of me to the Henderson account plays directly into my hands. The small green sign of the Jade Dragon comes into view, glowing softly in the gathering darkness. I pause outside, suddenly uncertain. Mr. Chen offered wisdom I'm not sure I want to hear, cautions about fate and balance that complicate the clean execution of my revenge. But his knowledge about rebirth makes him the only person who truly understands my situation. And if Ryan's fragmenting memories are as dangerous as they seem, I need whatever guidance Meister Chen can provide. I push open the door and step into the warm, fragrant interior, where the hostess immediately leads me to the same private room as before. Mr. Chen already waits, a fresh pot of tea steaming between us. You've had an eventful day, he says as I take my seat across from him. You knew this would happen, I reply, not bothering to ask how he's aware of today's events. You warned me about ripples affecting those connected to me. He pours tea for both of us, his movements deliberate and graceful. I did, but warnings rarely change the course of events. They merely prepare us for what was already coming. Ryan remembers more than he should, I say, wrapping my hands around the warm teacup. Not just vague dreams now, but specific moments from our previous life. Mr. Chen nods, unsurprised. The more dramatically you alter fate, the stronger the echoes become. His memories are responding to the parallel between your revenge and his original betrayal. What happens if he remembers everything? The question that's been haunting me all day finally emerges. That, Mr. Chen says carefully, depends on what everything contains. If he remembers only his actions and their consequences, he may understand your motivations without recognizing your unique perspective. And if he remembers more, I press, if he realizes I've been reborn with knowledge of a previous life? Mr. Chen sets down his cup, his ancient eyes holding mine. Then you will no longer be alone in your understanding of reality, for better or worse. The implication sends a chill through me. You mean he could experience rebirth too? Become like us? No, he says firmly. True rebirth comes only at death's threshold, and only to those for whom fate has significant correction in store. What Ryan experiences is more like contamination, his consciousness infected by proximity to yours. That sounds unpleasant, I murmur. It can be quite distressing, Mr. Chen agrees. Imagine having memories of actions you never performed, emotions you never felt, a life you never lived. The mind rebels against such contradictions. I think of Ryan's haunted eyes, his accusations in the boardroom, his certainty that something impossible is happening. For the first time, I feel a flicker of something dangerously like empathy. The Jade Fox, I say, changing direction. You said it offers protection against the consequences of altering fate. How does it work? Mr. Chen smiles slightly. Direct questions. Another quality I admire. He selects a dumpling from a plate I hadn't noticed arriving. The fox absorbs and redirects the energetic backlash of fate-altering actions. The more significant the alteration, the more protection required. And how do I activate it? Keep it close, he advises. Sleep with it nearby. Carry it when executing particularly significant changes to the timeline. I nod, making mental notes. Will it stop Ryan's memories from returning? Not entirely, Mr. Chen admits. But it can slow the process, make the memories more fragmented, less coherent. It buys you time. Time is exactly what I need, enough to complete my revenge before Ryan pieces together the full truth. After that, it won't matter what he remembers or understands. The damage will be done, the scales balanced. There's something else troubling you, Mr. Chen observes, studying my face. I hesitate, uncertain how to articulate the strange emptiness I felt watching Ryan's escorted departure today. The victory should have been sweeter, more satisfying. Instead, it left me hollow, unsettled. In my previous life, I begin slowly, Ryan's betrayal destroyed me. He and Lily took everything, my relationship, my professional reputation, eventually even my self-worth. I spent years rebuilding from nothing. Mr. Chen listens attentively, neither judging nor interrupting. But in this life, I continue, their betrayal was engineered. I manipulated circumstances to recreate their original crime, knowing exactly how to expose it for maximum damage. And now you question whether their punishment fits a crime you arranged for them to commit, Mr. Chen suggests gently. I look up, startled by his precision. Yes, exactly. The question of justice is never simple, he says, refilling our cups. Even less so when one holds the power to rewrite fate. What would you do, I ask, if you were in my position? Mr. Chen considers the question carefully. In my second life, I executed revenge against those who wronged me in the first. It was meticulous, comprehensive, ultimately successful. He pauses, his expression growing distant. And when it was finished, I discovered it changed nothing that mattered. The pain remained. The past remained. Only my future had been altered, consumed by bitterness that might have been purpose. His words hit closer to home than I want to admit. 3 years of this second life spent planning and executing revenge, mapping out destruction instead of creating something new. So you're saying I should forgive them? I ask, unable to keep the edge from my voice. I am saying nothing of the sort, he replies calmly. Forgiveness is a personal choice, not a moral obligation. I am merely suggesting that revenge, however complete, may not provide the resolution you seek. The server appears with a different tea, darker, more fragrant than before. As he pours, I consider Mr. Chen's words, turning them over in my mind. Ryan doesn't deserve forgiveness, I say finally, not after what he did in our first life. Perhaps not, Mr. Chen agrees. But consider this. The Ryan who destroyed you no longer exists. The man you're punishing now carries only fragments of those memories, none of the actual guilt. This perspective disturbs me more than I expected. I've been so focused on balancing the scales, on making Ryan and Lily suffer as I suffered, that I haven't fully considered the philosophical implications of punishing people for crimes they haven't technically committed in this timeline. They would have betrayed me again if given the chance, I argue. I just accelerated the inevitable. You cannot know that with certainty, Mr. Chen says gently. Different circumstances create different choices. By orchestrating their betrayal, you removed their opportunity to choose differently this time. The observation lands like a blow, forcing me to examine assumptions I've carried since my rebirth. What if Ryan wouldn't have betrayed me in this life? What if circumstances would have led Lily down a different path? It doesn't matter, I say, more to convince myself than him. What matters is balance. They destroyed me once. Now I'm returning the favor. Mr. Chen doesn't argue, merely sips his tea thoughtfully. And after the balance is restored, what then? The question catches me off guard. I've been so focused on executing my revenge that I've given little thought to what comes after. The emptiness I felt at Ryan's departure suddenly makes more sense. It's the first glimpse of the void waiting on the other side of completed vengeance. I don't know, I admit. That, Mr. Chen says with unexpected gentleness, is the beginning of wisdom. We finish our tea in contemplative silence, the question lingering between us. As I prepare to leave, Mr. Chen places a small velvet pouch beside my hand. For emergencies, he says, if the fox's protection proves insufficient. Inside the pouch, I find a small vial of amber liquid. What is it? Memory tea, he explains. 3 drops in a drink will blur recent memories, making them dreamlike, less coherent. Use it only if absolutely necessary. Interfering directly with another's mind carries significant karmic weight. I pocket the vial with mixed feelings, grateful for the additional protection, yet unsettled by its implications. Thank you. One last piece of advice, Mr. Chen says as I stand to leave. Watch for signs of fate's correction. When we alter the timeline too severely, unexpected consequences often appear as balance. What kind of signs? Events that didn't occur in your previous life. People acting out of character. Coincidences too precise to be random. He rises, inclining his head in a slight bow. The universe has ways of maintaining equilibrium, Miss Parker, even against our best efforts to reshape it. I leave the Jade Dragon with more questions than answers, the evening air cool against my flushed face. The Jade Fox weighs in my pocket, the vial of memory tea concealed in my purse. Tools of fate manipulation I never imagined possessing. As I walk toward my apartment, my phone buzzes with a text from Ryan. I remember the ring, princess cut, platinum band. I never gave it to you in this life, but I remember how it looked on your finger. How do I remember that, Mel? I stare at the message, my heart racing. The ring he describes is exactly the one he proposed with in my previous life. A detail so specific, it couldn't be coincidence or lucky guess. His memories are becoming more coherent, more precise. The ripples Mr. Chen warned about are growing into waves, threatening to wash away the careful construction of my revenge. I slip my hand into my pocket, fingers curling around the Jade Fox. Time is running out faster than I anticipated. I need to accelerate my plans. Complete my revenge before Ryan's memories fully crystallize. And tomorrow brings Lily's HR meeting, the Henderson account rescue, and the next phase of Diana's eventual downfall. All carefully orchestrated pieces of my revenge. But for the first time since my rebirth, I wonder if the satisfaction will be worth the price. If the scales, once balanced, will truly free me from the past, or merely bind me to it in new ways. I put away the thought as I reach my building, focusing instead on practical matters. The Jade Fox goes on my nightstand, close enough for protection during sleep. The vial of memory tea gets hidden in a drawer, an emergency measure I hope not to need. As I prepare for bed, my phone buzzes once more. Not Ryan this time, but Emma. Dad's had a heart attack. We're at Mercy Hospital. Come quickly. I freeze, staring at the message in disbelief. Our father's heart attack happened in my previous life too, but not for another 6 years when he was in his mid-60s. Now, barely 60, it's happening again, inexplicably accelerated. Mr. Chen's warning echoes in my mind. The universe has ways of maintaining equilibrium. Is this the correction he spoke of? My father's illness appearing years earlier as some cosmic balancing of my interference with fate? I grab my keys and rush for the door, the Jade Fox forgotten on my nightstand as panic overrides calculation for the first time since my rebirth. The universe, it seems, has just raised the stakes of my revenge game, and I'm no longer certain of the rules. The hospital corridors stretch endlessly, their antiseptic smell burning my nostrils as I rush toward the cardiac care unit. Everything about this feels wrong. The timing, the circumstances, the crushing sense of déjà vu as nurses direct me to the waiting area where Emma paces beside our mother. "What happened?" I ask, breathless from running from the parking garage. Emma turns, her makeup smeared from crying, looking so much younger than her usual polished self. "He collapsed at dinner. Mom called the ambulance right away, but he was already—" Her voice breaks. "They're doing tests now." Our mother sits motionless in a vinyl chair, staring at nothing. She looks exactly as she did in my previous life when this happened. Shocked, diminished, suddenly aged beyond her years. The sight hits me with unexpected force. "Has the doctor said anything?" I ask, keeping my voice gentle. "Massive cardiac event," Emma replies, wiping at her eyes. "They're checking for blockages, talking about possible surgery. Just like before, the exact same diagnosis. The same treatment plan that will follow, only 6 years too early." I sink into a chair, struggling to process the implications. In my previous life, our father survived this heart attack, lived another decade with dietary restrictions and medication. His health became a family priority, bringing us closer after years of distance. But that was before my rebirth, before my carefully plotted revenge sent ripples through the timeline. Is this acceleration of his illness the universe's way of balancing my interference, as Mr. Chen suggested? Emma sits beside me, her usual hostility temporarily suspended by crisis. "He was asking for you," she says quietly, "before they took him back. Kept saying he needed to tell you something important." That's new, a deviation from the previous timeline. In my first life, he was unconscious when I arrived at the hospital, woke up days later with no specific message for me. "Did he say what?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Emma shakes her head. "Just that he'd been having strange dreams. That he needed to warn you about something." Strange dreams? The phrase sends a chill through me, echoing Ryan's texts about memories that shouldn't exist. Is my father experiencing the same phenomenon? Are the ripples of my fate manipulation spreading beyond Ryan to my family? A doctor appears in the doorway, his scrubs bearing faint bloodstains that make my stomach clench. "Mrs. Parker," he calls, and my mother rises shakily. "He's stabilized," the doctor says, his voice carefully neutral. "We've identified significant blockages in 3 coronary arteries. He'll need bypass surgery, but we want to wait until he's stronger." My mother nods mechanically, asking the same questions she asked in my previous life, about risks, recovery time, prognosis. I listen with half an ear, my mind racing ahead to implications the doctor can't possibly understand. If my father's illness has accelerated by 6 years, what other events might shift in the timeline? What other consequences might my revenge trigger? "Can we see him?" Emma asks when my mother falls silent. "Briefly," the doctor says. "He's sedated but conscious. Try not to excite him." We follow him through swinging doors into the CCU, where machines beep in rhythmic chorus around beds, separated by thin curtains. Our father lies in the 3rd bay, looking small and pale, against the white sheets, tubes and wires connecting him to monitors that track his fragile hold on life. My mother goes to him first, taking his hand and whispering words too soft to hear. Emma follows, her usual composure cracking as she sees him up close. I hang back, suddenly uncertain. In my previous life, I was the dutiful daughter during his illness, taking family medical leave, coordinating with doctors, researching treatment options. My dedication partly stemmed from guilt over our strained relationship during my 20s. Now I stand at the foot of his bed as a different person entirely, one who's been using foreknowledge to manipulate events, potentially triggering this premature crisis. His eyes flutter open, gaze drifting past my mother and sister to find me. "Mel," he croaks, his voice barely audible above the beeping machines. "Need to talk." I step closer, leaning in to hear him better. "I'm here, Dad. Don't strain yourself." His hand reaches for mine, grip surprisingly strong for a man who's just survived a major heart attack. Been dreaming, he whispers, about you, about another life. My blood turns to ice. It's just the medication, I say automatically, aware of my mother and Emma listening. Rest now, we can talk later. He shakes his head weakly but insistently. Not medication, memories. His eyes hold mine with unsettling clarity. You're different now, changed, like you've lived it all before. Emma and my mother exchange concerned glances, clearly attributing his ramblings to his condition. But I can't breathe. Can't think past the implication that my father, like Ryan, is somehow accessing memories from my previous life. Dad, you need to rest, I say more firmly, gently extracting my hand from his. We'll talk when you're stronger. A nurse appears to check his vitals, gently suggesting we let him sleep. My mother kisses his forehead before reluctantly moving toward the door. Emma follows, casting a last worried glance over her shoulder. I start to turn away, but his voice stops me, stronger than before. Be careful, Melanie. Revenge leaves everyone damaged. I should know. I freeze, staring at him in shock. He's never said anything like this to me in either lifetime. My father was always practical, emotionally reserved, focused on achievement rather than feelings. His eyes close before I can respond, sedation pulling him back under. I back away from the bed, my legs unsteady as I rejoin my mother and sister in the hallway. What was that about? Emma asks as we walk back to the waiting area. What revenge? Medication talking, I say dismissively. You heard the nurse. But internally, I'm reeling. First Ryan, now my father. Both experiencing memories or knowledge they shouldn't possess. The ripples are spreading faster than I anticipated, threatening to expose my rebirth before I can complete my carefully orchestrated plan. I need coffee, my mother announces suddenly. Emma, would you? I'll get it, I offer quickly, needing a moment alone to collect myself. The cafe is on the first floor, right? I escape before they can respond, making my way to the elevator on autopilot. As the doors close, I lean against the wall, finally allowing myself to process what just happened. My father knows, or suspects, something impossible about my situation. And his cryptic warning about revenge suggests he's accessing not just random memories, but specific emotional context from my previous life. The elevator reaches the first floor, but I don't immediately step out. Instead, I pull out my phone and text Mr. Chen. My father is having memory fragments too. This shouldn't be possible. His response comes quickly. More significant than I feared. Do not return home tonight. Meet me. A second text follows with an address in a part of the city I'm unfamiliar with. I stare at it, weighing my options. My family needs me here, but if Mr. Chen's concern is genuine, I need answers more urgently. I step out of the elevator and head to the cafe, ordering coffees for my mother and Emma. While waiting, I text Emma. Need to make urgent work calls. Taking care of Henderson emergency remotely. Back in the morning. Keep me updated. The lie comes easily, but carries a weight it wouldn't have before. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have hesitated to prioritize my revenge plot over family obligations. Now, walking back to the cardiac unit with coffees in hand, I feel a thread of doubt weaving through my certainty. I deliver the coffees and my excuses, weathering Emma's disapproving look and my mother's distracted nod. Neither fights my departure. They're too consumed with the immediate crisis to question my priorities. And outside the hospital, the night air feels oppressively heavy, matching my mood as I hail a rideshare to the address Mr. Chen provided. Only when the car pulls away do I realize I've left the Jade Fox on my nightstand, its protection beyond my reach for the night. The drive takes us away from the city center, through neighborhoods that gradually transition from commercial to industrial to something indefinable. Older buildings with architectural details from another era, narrow streets that seem to bend at impossible angles. My driver grows increasingly confused, the GPS struggling to make sense of our location. This can't be right, he mutters, peering through the windshield at buildings with no visible addresses. Nothing's where it should be. It's okay, I assure him, spotting a familiar figure standing beneath a street lamp at the next corner. You can let me out here. Mr. Chen waits as I approach, his expression grave in the amber light. Without speaking, he leads me down a narrow alley that seems to stretch longer than geometry should allow, ending at a weathered door with symbols carved into its frame. Where are we? I ask as he produces an ancient key. Somewhere between, he answers cryptically, pushing open the door to reveal a small courtyard garden I wouldn't have believed possible in this dense urban area. Stone lanterns illuminate a path through carefully tended plants, leading to a traditional tea house that seems transported from another country or century. The ripples have become waves, Mr. Chen says as he guides me inside, where a single table awaits, already set for tea. Your father's condition is not coincidence. I gathered that, I reply, taking the seat he indicates. But why him? Why now? Mr. Chen prepares tea with practiced movements, his silence thoughtful rather than evasive. Only when he's poured for both of us does he answer. In my experience, the universe corrects imbalances through connections of emotional significance. Your father's illness occurred in your previous life, making it a natural point for timeline correction. But 6 years early, I press, that's not a small adjustment. The scale of the correction corresponds to the scale of your interference. He meets my gaze steadily. Your revenge has altered many lives, not just those of your primary targets. The truth of this observation settles uncomfortably. Beyond Ryan, Lily, and Emma, my machinations have affected colleagues, clients, even peripheral friends whose social circles overlapped with ours. My father mentioned revenge specifically, I say, cradling my teacup for warmth. He said he should know about its damage. What could that mean? Mr. Chen's expression shifts subtly. Perhaps your father has secrets of his own. The past rarely stays buried when fate's waters are disturbed. A memory surfaces, something Emma mentioned years ago in my previous life, about our father changing after a business partnership dissolved acrimoniously. He never discussed it, but the timing coincided with our family's sudden financial stability. You think he pursued revenge against someone in his past? I ask. I think, Mr. Chen says carefully, that memory fragments rarely appear randomly. They reflect emotional resonance between timelines. The implications stack in my mind like falling dominoes. If my father is accessing memories related to revenge, then his past may mirror my present more closely than I've ever realized. There's more, Mr. Chen continues, setting down his cup. The Jade Fox's protection extends only to the one who possesses it. By leaving it behind, you've created vulnerability, not just for yourself, but for all connected to your fate manipulation. Meaning what exactly? Meaning Ryan's memory retrieval may accelerate tonight. Your father's condition may worsen. The universe seeking balance through the paths of least resistance. Panic flickers through me. I need to go back. Get the fox. Too late for that, Mr. Chen says with gentle finality. Once begun, this phase of correction cannot be halted, only weathered. So what do? I demand, fear sharpening my tone. Just wait while everything falls apart? Not everything, he corrects. Only those elements of your revenge built on manipulation rather than truth. I stare at him, not understanding. What's the difference? If you had simply used your foreknowledge to protect yourself from harm, to build success honestly, the universe would seek no correction. His ancient eyes hold mine. It is the deliberate engineering of others' downfall that creates imbalance requiring adjustment. The distinction feels arbitrary, self-serving. Ryan and Lily destroyed me, I argue. They deserve what's happening to them. Perhaps, Mr. Chen refills our cups. But consider this. In your previous life, did their actions originate from pure malice or from their own wounds and weaknesses? The question catches me off guard. I've spent so long viewing their betrayal as deliberate cruelty that I've never seriously considered alternative motivations. Does it matter? I ask. The damage was the same regardless of their intentions. Intent always matters, Mr. Chen says simply, as does growth. The Ryan who betrayed you in your first life had certain flaws, certain weaknesses. The Ryan of this life may share those traits, but he is not identical. No one ever is, even across a single lifetime. I think of Ryan's confusion in the boardroom today, his insistence that he didn't tamper with the reports. In my previous life, he would have blamed others immediately, never taking responsibility. Today's confrontation showed a different response. Direct, confused, but not deflecting. What are you suggesting? I ask, though I suspect I already know. That your revenge may be punishing people for crimes they haven't committed, and might never commit without your orchestration. Mr. Chen's voice remains gentle, despite the harshness of his assessment, and the universe is responding accordingly. The silence that follows feels heavy with implication. Outside, the garden has grown darker, the stone lanterns casting longer shadows as time stretches in this strange place. My father said something similar, I admit finally, about revenge damaging everyone. Wisdom often emerges in moments of crisis, Mr. Chen observes. The veil between lifetimes thins, allowing deeper truths to surface. So what happens now? I ask, setting down my cup. Do I just stop? Abandon my plans and hope the universe forgives my interference? Not stop, he corrects. Transform. There is a difference between justice and revenge, between protection and punishment. Semantics, I mutter, though without conviction. Reality, he counters. Your father's condition is a warning, Miss Parker. Heed it before the correction extends to losses you cannot recover from. The threat implicit in his words sends a chill through me. Are you saying my father could die because of what I've done? Mr. Chen doesn't answer directly, which is answer enough. The memory tea I gave you, he says instead, it can be used to blur the boundary between timelines, making memory fragments seem like dreams rather than reality. For Ryan, I say, understanding, to slow his remembering. For anyone experiencing dangerous levels of timeline contamination, he clarifies, including your father. I straighten, hope flickering. It could help him? It could reduce his awareness of timeline discrepancies, yes, which might allow his body to follow this lifetime's natural health trajectory, rather than accelerating toward your previous timeline's events. I'll do it, I say immediately. I'll give him the tea. There is a cost, Mr. Chen warns. Using the tea creates its own imbalance, requiring restoration elsewhere in the timeline. What kind of restoration? He meets my gaze steadily. A truth for a deception. To blur another's reality, you must bring some hidden thing to light. The mystical bartering frustrates me. Can't you just say what you mean? I am, he says patiently. To use the memory tea on your father, you must reveal a significant truth you've been concealing. The scales must balance. To whom? I demand. Reveal what to whom? The universe is not so prescriptive, he says with a slight smile. The truth should be proportionate to the deception, revealed to someone of emotional significance in your journey. I think through my options, weighing secrets against potential recipients. I could tell Emma about knowing her loan fraud in advance, but that seems insufficient to balance my father's life. I could reveal something to my mother about my foreknowledge of events, but our relationship lacks the emotional intensity the exchange seems to require. Which leaves Ryan or Lily, the primary targets of my revenge, the people I've manipulated most extensively. If I tell Ryan the truth about tampering with his reports, I say slowly, would that be enough to balance using the tea on my father? Mr. Chen considers this. A professional truth for a personal deception. Close, but not quite equivalent. What about, I hesitate, the word's difficult to form. What if I tell Lily I engineered her situation with Ryan? That I suggested to her he had feelings for her, knowing she'd act on it? Closer, Mr. Chen acknowledges, though still not touching the core truth of your rebirth. I shake my head firmly. I can't tell anyone that. They'd think I was insane. Not if they're already experiencing memory fragments themselves, he points out. To someone like Ryan, who's remembering your previous life together, the truth might be more believable than you fear. The thought of revealing my rebirth to Ryan, of admitting I've been orchestrating his downfall based on actions he hasn't technically committed in this lifetime, feels impossible. There must be another way, I insist. Mr. Chen shrugs slightly. There is always another way. But ask yourself, what truth would truly balance the scales? What revelation would cost you what the tea might save? The answer comes unbidden, admitting to Ryan that I still love him. That beneath my calculated revenge, I've never stopped loving the man who destroyed me, only buried it beneath layers of hurt and anger. I see you've thought of something, Mr. Chen observes, noting my expression. It's not relevant, I say quickly. Just a random thought. He doesn't press, but his knowing look suggests he understands more than I've said. The tea will work proportionately to the truth you reveal. A small truth, a small effect, a profound truth. A profound effect, I finish. I understand. Do you? He studies me with those ancient eyes. Balance isn't about equivalent exchange, Miss Parker. It's about restoring harmony to a system. Your revenge has created dissonance in fate's music. Only genuine resolution can return the melody to its proper key. The poetic metaphor irritates me even as I recognize its accuracy. My revenge has created consequences beyond my targets, affecting my father, potentially others I haven't yet discovered. I need to get back to the hospital, I say, standing abruptly. If the tea can help my father, I should administer it as soon as possible. Mr. Chen rises as well, producing a small carved box I hadn't noticed before. 3 additional vials, he says, handing it to me. Use them wisely. Each carries the same requirement for balancing truth. I take the box, tucking it carefully into my bag alongside the original vial. How do I find you again, if I need to? You won't need to find me, he says with certainty. But should urgency arise, return to the Jade Dragon. They will know how to reach me. The courtyard garden seems to have shifted when we exit the tea house, the path curving differently than before. Mr. Chen leads me through what feels like a different route, emerging not into the alley where we entered, but onto a busy street I immediately recognize, just 2 blocks from the hospital. How? I begin, but Mr. Chen is already walking away, his figure somehow diminishing more quickly than distance should allow. I turn toward the hospital, my mind racing with implications and decisions. The memory tea offers a solution to my father's condition, but at a cost I'm not sure I'm willing to pay. Revealing a significant truth, especially to Ryan, could unravel my revenge before it's complete. Yet watching my father suffering from an accelerated timeline feels like punishment for sins he hasn't committed. Exactly what Mr. Chen accused me of doing to Ryan and Lily. The hospital entrance looms ahead, its emergency lights casting red and blue shadows across the parking lot. Inside, my father fights for his life, while timeline ripples wash through his consciousness. My mother and Emma wait for my return, unaware of the cosmic forces I've set in motion. My phone buzzes with a text from Ryan. We need to talk. I remember everything now, Mel. Everything, including how it ends. I stop in my tracks, staring at the message with growing horror. The last line couldn't be clearer. Ryan now remembers not just our engagement and his betrayal, but the complete arc of our previous life together, including, presumably, his eventual regret years later when his relationship with Lily imploded. If he truly remembers how it ends, then he knows things about my future that even I don't know. Events that occurred after my rebirth point, parts of my first life I never experienced. The revelation sends ice through my veins. I've been operating on the assumption that my foreknowledge gave me complete advantage. But if Ryan's memories extend beyond my own, he may understand consequences of my revenge that I can't possibly anticipate. I shove my phone back in my pocket without responding and hurry into the hospital, my decision crystallizing with each step. I'll use the memory tea on my father tonight, blur the timeline contamination threatening his recovery. As for the balancing truth I must reveal, I'm still not certain. But as I ride the elevator back to the cardiac unit, I acknowledge what I've been avoiding. This revenge path is creating casualties I never intended, consequences I can't control. The doors open, and I step out. The memory tea vial heavy in my bag. Mr. Chen's warning heavy in my mind. Ahead, the night nurse looks up from her station, recognition crossing her face. Miss Parker, she calls, already standing. We've been trying to reach you. Your father's condition has changed. I rush forward, heart pounding. Changed how? The doctor will explain, she says, leading me swiftly down the corridor. They're with him now. The curtain around my father's bed is drawn, but I can see additional medical personnel through the gap, their movements urgent. My mother and Emma stand pressed against the wall, faces pale with fear. What happened? I ask, joining them. He was agitated, my mother whispers, kept talking about memories that couldn't be his. about warnings he needed to give you. Then the alarm started going off. Emma's red-rimmed eyes fix on mine with sudden suspicion. What did he mean, Mel? What warnings? Before I can formulate a response, a doctor emerges from behind the curtain, his expression carefully neutral in the way that signals bad news. We've stabilized him for now, he says without preamble. But he's experienced another cardiac event. We need to operate immediately. My mother nods mechanically, signing the consent forms he produces. Emma asks technical questions about risks and recovery that the doctor answers with practiced patience. I stand frozen, knowing what none of them can possibly understand. That my father's accelerating condition is directly connected to my manipulation of fate. That his memories are timeline contamination from my rebirth ripples. That his life now hangs in balance because of my revenge. Can I see him? I ask when the doctor finishes explaining the procedure. Just for a moment before they take him to surgery. He hesitates, then nods. Very briefly, they're prepping him now. I slip behind the curtain, where nurses efficiently check equipment and adjust IV lines. My father lies pale against the sheets, oxygen mask covering his face, but his eyes open when I approach. Mel, he says, voice muffled by the mask. You came back. Of course I did. I take his hand, fighting back tears I didn't expect to feel. In my previous life, I loved my father but resented his emotional distance, his preference for Emma's achievements over my creative pursuits. Now, seeing him vulnerable makes those grievances seem petty. The dreams, he manages, struggling to speak. Not dreams. Remember your engagement party, Ryan and your friend. My blood runs cold. He's describing the exact moment from my previous life when I discovered Ryan and Lily's affair, at my own engagement celebration. Don't try to talk, I urge, glancing nervously at the nurses, who thankfully seem focused on their tasks. Save your strength. His grip tightens on my hand with surprising force. Listen, he insists. I made the same mistake. Years ago. Destroyed a man who trusted me. Business partner. Took everything from him for revenge over an imagined slight. The confession stuns me. This is nothing he ever revealed in my previous life. Nothing I could have anticipated. He killed himself, my father continues, each word clearly causing pain. Couldn't live with the humiliation. Left a wife, children. Dad, please, I beg, seeing his heart monitor showing increased stress. We can talk after your surgery. But he's determined to finish. The universe balances accounts, Melanie. I've paid for my revenge every day since. Don't make my mistake. Not with Ryan, not with any of them. A nurse approaches, frowning at his vitals. I'm sorry, but we need to move him now. I nod, gently extracting my hand from my father's grip. I'll be waiting when you wake up, I promise. His eyes hold mine with unsettling clarity. Stop it now, he whispers. Before the price gets higher. They wheel him away, leaving me standing alone behind the curtain, his words echoing in my mind. The parallel is impossible to ignore. My father's confession about revenge destroying lives, including ultimately his own. The karmic weight he's carried all these years, manifesting now as accelerated illness when timeline ripples expose buried truths. I touch the vial of memory tea in my pocket. Using it might stabilize his condition, but Mr. Chen's warning was clear. I must balance the deception with truth. And after what my father just revealed, I'm beginning to understand which truth the universe demands. Outside, my mother and Emma wait for information, both looking to me for strength I'm not sure I possess anymore. I suggest they get coffee, promising to stay and update them if anything changes. Once they're gone, I pull out my phone and text Ryan. Meet me at the hospital, 4th floor waiting room. It's about my father, but also about us. His response comes immediately. On my way. I sink into a vinyl chair in the empty waiting room, exhaustion washing over me. The revenge that seemed so righteous 3 years ago now feels poisoned at its root, creating ripples of harm I never intended. My father's confession revealed an ugly truth. Revenge doesn't just damage its targets. It damages the avenger too, creating karmic debt that demands payment eventually. In his case, the payment comes as secrets exposed, health compromised, perhaps even a shortened life. What price am I willing to pay for my satisfaction? What price am I willing to let others pay? I pull out the vial of memory tea, studying its amber contents in the harsh fluorescent light. The power to blur reality, to make solid memories seem like dreams, at the cost of revealing a truth I've protected fiercely. The elevator chimes and Ryan steps out, looking as exhausted as I feel. His eyes find mine across the waiting room, and something in his expression tells me Mr. Chen was right. He remembers everything now, not fragments, not dreams, but the complete reality of our previous life together. Mel, he says simply, crossing to sit beside me. I'm sorry about your father. The genuine concern in his voice catches me off guard. This isn't the Ryan who coldly destroyed me in my previous life, nor is it the confused Ryan of recent weeks, struggling with memory fragments he couldn't understand. This is someone new, or perhaps someone revealed. A Ryan who remembers his past crimes but hasn't committed them in this lifetime. Thank you for coming, I say, uncertain how to begin this impossible conversation. I remember everything, he says quietly, meeting my gaze directly. Our entire relationship, the proposal, the betrayal with Lily, what I did to your career afterward. I stay silent, letting him continue. But here's what I don't understand, he goes on. None of that happened in this lifetime. We've been dating less than a year. I never proposed. Yet I remember a 3-year relationship, an engagement, a complete other life with you. His hand reaches for mine, hesitates, then withdraws. And more confusing, I remember being cruel to you in ways I can't imagine being now. Deliberately destroying your reputation after you caught me with Lily. Taking pleasure in your downfall. The raw pain in his voice sounds genuine, creating confusion of my own. Is this an act, another manipulation? Or has Ryan truly changed in ways I've refused to see? What's happening to me, Mel? He asks, vulnerability replacing his earlier certainty. Am I losing my mind? Or is something impossible happening? The balancing truth Mr. Chen spoke of hangs before me, waiting to be voiced. The price for using the memory tea, perhaps for saving my father's life. A truth that could unravel everything I've worked for, or offer a different kind of resolution entirely. You're not losing your mind, I say finally, the words feeling like stones lifted from my chest one by one. What you're remembering is real. It happened, just not in this lifetime. His expression shifts from confusion to dawning comprehension. What are you saying? I'm saying I've lived this before. The truth emerges, unstoppable now that I've begun. 3 years ago, I woke up back in my 26-year-old body with all my memories intact from a previous life. A life where you and I were engaged, where you betrayed me with Lily, where you both destroyed me professionally afterward. Ryan stares at me, shock giving way to understanding. That's why you've seemed different since I met you. Why you know things you shouldn't possibly know. I nod, relief mixing with apprehension as I continue. In that life, I lost everything after your betrayal. My career, my confidence, eventually even my apartment. It took years to rebuild from nothing. And in this life, he says slowly, you've been using that foreknowledge to, what, get revenge? The blunt assessment strikes closer than I expected. To ensure history doesn't repeat itself, I correct, though the distinction feels hollow even to me. By orchestrating the exact situation you feared, his voice holds no accusation, only genuine confusion. Creating the circumstances for Lily and me to betray you, then exposing it publicly? It's more complicated than that, I argue, but without conviction. Ryan runs a hand through his hair, processing. The reports at work, you tampered with them, didn't you? Set me up to take the fall for financial discrepancies. I don't deny it. In my previous life, you did the same to me. Altered data, made it look like I'd misrepresented client numbers. So this has all been payback. He says it with such certainty that I almost agree, until I recognize the oversimplification. Not just payback, I say carefully, protection, prevention, making sure I didn't lose everything again. Ryan studies me for a long moment. You could have just not dated me this time around, avoided me completely. Why engineer this elaborate revenge if you knew what I was capable of? The question hits a truth I've avoided confronting. Why indeed did I pursue this path when I could have simply steered clear of both Ryan and Lily in this second chance? Because I needed to understand, I admit, the realization forming as I speak. In my first life, I never saw it coming. Never understood why you both betrayed me so completely. Part of me needed to see if it would happen again, if given the opportunity. So you created the opportunity. His voice holds no judgment, just clarity. And we failed your test, proving your worst fears correct. Yes. The simple admission feels both true and incomplete. But something unexpected happened. You both responded differently this time. You showed remorse immediately. Lily seemed genuinely devastated by her mistake. Because we are different people, Ryan says quietly. Or at least I am. The man from your memories, the one who deliberately destroyed you after being caught, that's not me, Mel. I may share his face, his name, even some of his weaknesses. But I've made different choices in this life. Until I arranged for you not to, I acknowledge, the reality of what I've done settling uncomfortably. I've been punishing you for crimes you hadn't committed, might never have committed. The realization lands like a physical weight. Mr. Chen was right. My revenge wasn't justice, but manipulation, forcing others into roles from my previous life regardless of who they might have become in this one. Why are you telling me this now? Ryan asks, gesturing around the hospital waiting room. What changed? I look toward the surgical wing where my father fights for his life. The universe seeks balance, I say, echoing Mr. Chen's words. My manipulation of fate created ripples affecting everyone connected to me. My father is paying a price for my revenge, experiencing memories from my previous life, his health accelerating toward a crisis that shouldn't happen for years. Ryan's eyes widen with understanding. That's why he collapsed tonight? Because of what you've been doing to me and Lily? Not directly, I explain, realizing how insane this must sound to someone without Mr. Chen's context. But the universe balances accounts. My father pursued his own revenge years ago, destroyed someone who trusted him. Now those buried actions are surfacing as his health deteriorates prematurely. And you think stopping your revenge will help him somehow? Ryan sounds skeptical but not dismissive. I pull out the vial of memory tea. This might help him, blur the timeline contamination affecting his health. But using it requires balance. A truth exchanged for a deception. So you're telling me all this to save your father? Ryan concludes, a hint of his old bitterness returning. Yes, I admit honestly, but also because it's time. Because watching my father suffer for past actions he thought were justified showed me where this path leads. The elevator chimes again and a nurse appears, scanning the waiting room until she spots me. Miss Parker, your father is in recovery. The surgery went well, but the next 20... The elevator chimes again and a nurse appears, scanning the waiting room until she spots me. Miss Parker, your father is in recovery. The surgery went well, but the next 24 hours will be critical. Relief washes through me, leaving my legs weak. Can we see him? He's still under sedation, she says. But you can look in on him briefly. Family only, she adds with an apologetic glance at Ryan. I'll wait, Ryan says. We're not finished talking. I nod, following the nurse down the corridor to recovery, where my father lies surrounded by machines, monitoring every aspect of his fragile condition. He seems smaller somehow, vulnerable in ways I've never associated with him. My mother sits beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, while Emma stands at the foot of the bed, her usual composure shattered. The doctor says it went as well as could be expected, my mother says without looking up. Triple bypass, long recovery ahead. I approach the bed cautiously, the vial of memory tea heavy in my pocket. If Mr. Chen is right, using it now could help stabilize my father's condition, prevent further timeline acceleration. But I need the right moment, a way to administer it without raising suspicion. Emma, I say quietly, why don't you take Mom to get some rest? I'll stay with him for a while. To my surprise, neither argues. The crisis has exhausted them both, suspension of their usual defenses making them open to suggestion. I hug them both, promises of updates exchanged, and then they're gone, leaving me alone with my unconscious father and the chance to help him, if I've paid the necessary price in truth. I check that no nurses are watching, then carefully lift the oxygen mask just enough to place 3 drops of the amber liquid on my father's lips. It absorbs instantly, leaving no trace as I replace the mask. I'm stopping it, I whisper, leaning close to his ear. The revenge, the manipulation, all of it. I understand now what you were trying to tell me. His eyelids flutter but don't open, his breathing remaining steady and even. I don't know if he hears me, if the memory tea is already working to stabilize his timeline connection, but making the promise aloud feels significant regardless. I stay a few minutes longer, watching his vital signs for any immediate change. Seeing none, I finally return to the waiting room where Ryan sits exactly where I left him, scrolling through his phone with a troubled expression. How is he? He asks, looking up as I approach. Stable for now, I say, taking the seat beside him. The surgery went well, but recovery will be challenging. Ryan nods, then holds up his phone to show me a text from Lily. HR meeting postponed until next week. Someone withdrew the complaint about the client files. Was it you? It wasn't me, I say honestly, though I immediately know what happened. The universe balancing accounts. My truth to Ryan creating equal adjustment elsewhere in the timeline. I thought you were orchestrating her professional downfall, Ryan says, confusion evident. Part of your revenge plan. I run a hand through my hair, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. But things are changing. Ripples I didn't anticipate. Balance seeking restoration. Ryan sets his phone down, turning to face me fully. So what happens now? You've told me the impossible truth. Your father's getting the whatever that was in that vial. Where does that leave us? The question hangs between us, complicated by everything that's happened, my orchestrated revenge, his emerging memories, the truth that's now exposed. I don't know, I admit. I've been so focused on making you pay for what happened in my previous life that I haven't thought about what comes after. Well, I have, he says with unexpected firmness. These memories, the ones that shouldn't be mine, they've shown me something important. They've shown me the man I could become at my worst. Selfish, manipulative, cruel. I stay silent, letting him continue. But they've also shown me what we had before it all went wrong. His voice softens. We were good together, Mel. Before I ruined everything. Before I made the worst mistake of my life with Lily. That wasn't you, I remind him, though the distinction feels increasingly complex. That was another version of you in another timeline. It was me enough that I remember it, he counters, feel it, understand exactly how and why it happened. I shift uncomfortably, not ready for this conversation here in a hospital waiting room with my father in recovery nearby. Ryan, let me finish, he says gently. I'm not excusing what that version of me did. Or what I did in this life when I kissed Lily, even if you orchestrated the circumstances. But I am saying I understand now why it happened. Why? The question escapes before I can stop it, the same question that haunted me for years in my previous life that partly drove my elaborate revenge in this one. Why did you betray me? Fear, he says simply. Fear of commitment, of vulnerability, of truly being seen. In your memories, I sabotaged our relationship when it became most real. And I would have done the same in this life, eventually, one way or another. The assessment lands with surprising accuracy. Ryan, my Ryan from before, never could handle emotional intimacy, always created distance when we grew too close. So what's different now? I ask, skeptical despite the earnestness in his expression. I've seen the consequences, he says. Not theoretically, not as a warning, but as lived experience. I remember how it felt to lose you, to watch you suffer because of my actions, to realize too late what I'd thrown away. He leans forward, his voice dropping. That knowledge is a gift, Mel, a terrible, painful gift that I wouldn't have chosen, but one that changes everything. I study his face, looking for signs of the manipulation I remember from my previous life. Instead, I see only exhaustion and a raw sincerity I'm not prepared for. I need time, I say finally. What you're suggesting, that we could move forward from this somehow, it's not that simple. I know, he agrees readily. I'm not asking for forgiveness or a second chance. Not yet. I'm just asking you to consider that the past, both pasts, don't have to dictate our future. The elevator chimes again and Emma emerges, her eyes finding me instantly. Mom's getting coffee, she says, approaching. The doctor wants to talk to us again. I stand, and Ryan follows suit. I should go, he says. Call me when you're ready to finish this conversation. I nod, suddenly unwilling to see him leave despite everything. Thank you for coming. He hesitates, then reaches out to briefly squeeze my hand. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For this life and the other. For pain I caused that I don't fully remember, and pain I caused that I do. As he walks toward the elevator, Emma watches with open curiosity. Since when are you and Ryan on speaking terms again? Last I heard, he was suspended after you exposed him at work. It's complicated, I say, not ready to explain the impossible truth to her. Dad's condition has put things in perspective. She studies me with the too perceptive gaze that always made me uncomfortable growing up. You seem different, she observes. Less, calculated? The assessment surprises me with its accuracy. Maybe I am, I acknowledge. Near-death experiences have a way of clarifying priorities. We walk together toward recovery, where a doctor waits with charts and cautious optimism about our father's condition. As he explains the surgery's success and the recovery protocol, I notice something strange. The doctor makes no mention of the agitation or memory issues my father exhibited before surgery. What about his confusion? I ask when he finishes. The episodes where he was talking about memories and dreams? The doctor looks puzzled. There's nothing in his chart about confusion or memory issues, just the cardiac symptoms and standard pre-surgical anxiety. Emma frowns. But he was talking about memories that couldn't be his, about warnings he needed to give Melanie. You were there, Mom, she says as our mother joins us. You heard him. Our mother looks confused. I don't remember anything like that. He was in pain, worried about the surgery, but lucid. The realization hits me. The memory tea is working already, not just on my father, but on those connected to him. The timeline contamination is receding, memories of the anomaly blurring into vague impressions or disappearing entirely. I must have misunderstood, I say quickly, covering the discrepancy. It was a stressful situation. Emma doesn't look convinced, but she lets it drop as the doctor continues reviewing recovery milestones and medication schedules. I listen with half an ear, my mind racing ahead to implications and next steps. If the memory tea worked this effectively, this quickly, then Mr. Chen's guidance was correct. The balancing truth I shared with Ryan created the conditions for cosmic equilibrium. But what does that mean for my carefully orchestrated revenge? For the plans I had for Diana, for Emma, for others who hurt me in my previous life? More importantly, what does it mean for Ryan's memories? Will they fade like my father's apparent confusion, becoming dreamlike and distant? Or are they too firmly established now, a permanent bridge between timelines? The doctor finishes his update and excuses himself, leaving us to determine a rotation for staying with our father. I volunteer for the night shift, needing time alone to process everything that's happened. To my relief, both my mother and Emma agree readily, exhaustion overriding their usual need to control the situation. Once they leave for home and rest, I settle into the chair beside my father's bed, listening to the steady beeping of monitors that track his condition. For the first time since his heart attack, the readings show stability, no concerning fluctuations, no signs of the accelerated timeline I feared was killing him. It worked, I whisper, more to myself than to him. The tea, the truth, it's stabilizing your condition. His eyelids flutter but don't open, his breathing remaining deep and even under sedation. Whether he can hear me or not, I continue speaking, the quiet confession easier in his unconsciousness. I understand what you were trying to tell me, I say softly. About revenge destroying everyone involved. I've been so focused on making them pay that I didn't see the damage I was doing to myself. To others who had nothing to do with the original betrayal. The monitors beep steadily, a comforting rhythm that sounds like approval. Outside the window, night has fully fallen, the city lights creating a constellation of human activity against the darkness. I don't know what happens next, I admit. I've spent 3 years planning this revenge, arranging every detail. I don't know who I am without it driving me forward. My phone buzzes with a text from Lily. Thank you for whatever you did about the HR complaint. Can we talk tomorrow? The universe balancing accounts again. My decision to end the revenge, creating immediate adjustments in the timeline. I text back a simple agreement, uncertain what I'll say to her, but knowing the conversation needs to happen. Another text arrives moments later, this one from Diana. The Henderson client called. Said you've completely turned their perspective around. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. We'll discuss your future with the firm when things settle with your father. I stare at the message in confusion. I haven't spoken to the Henderson client since before my father's heart attack. Haven't had time to implement the rescue strategy I planned for the account. Yet somehow, the situation has resolved itself without my intervention. Mr. Chen's voice echoes in my memory. If you had simply used your foreknowledge to protect yourself from harm, to build success honestly, the universe would seek no correction. Is that what's happening now? The universe adjusting around my changed intent, creating pathways to success not built on others' destruction? A soft knock at the door interrupts my thoughts. A nurse enters, checking vitals and adjusting medication. He's doing remarkably well, she comments. BP is stabilizing nicely, stronger than expected at this stage. That's good news, I say, hope flickering. The doctor was concerned earlier about possible neurological complications, she continues, making notes on his chart. But the latest readings show normal brain activity, no signs of the irregularities they feared. More confirmation that the memory T is working, correcting the timeline contamination that threatened his recovery. Relief washes through me, along with growing certainty that I've made the right decision in abandoning my revenge. The nurse finishes her checks and leaves us alone again. I settle back in the chair, exhaustion pulling at me as the day's emotional weight accumulates. My eyes drift closed, despite my intention to stay alert, and I slip into uneasy sleep beside my father's bed. I dream of Mr. Chen's courtyard garden, the stone lanterns casting warm light over carefully tended plants. He sits at the tea table, expectant, as if he's been waiting for me. You chose balance, he says without preamble. Earlier than I expected. My father was dying, I reply simply. Mr. Chen nods, acknowledging the point. The universe corrects with whatever leverage it finds most effective. For some, it's financial ruin. For others, relationship collapse. For you, family became the pressure point. Is he going to recover? I ask. The question that matters most. That depends on you, Mr. Chen says. The memory T creates temporary stability, but lasting correction requires genuine change. Are you truly abandoning your revenge, Miss Parker? Or merely pausing it during this crisis? Even in the dream, I understand the significance of the question. I'm finished with revenge, I say with certainty that surprises me. What it was doing to my father, to me, it's not worth the satisfaction. A wisdom many never achieve, Mr. Chen observes, even after multiple lifetimes. What happens to Ryan's memories? I ask, the question that's been lingering. Will they fade like my father's confusion seems to be doing? Mr. Chen considers this, pouring dream tea that steams in the cool garden air. His memories have served their purpose, showing him consequences he would not otherwise understand. Whether they remain vivid or gradually blur depends partly on what you both choose next. I don't understand. Some connections transcend single lifetimes, Miss Parker, he says enigmatically. Some lessons require multiple attempts to fully learn. Before I can press for clarification, the dream shifts, the garden dissolving into mist. I wake with a start to find morning light streaming through the hospital window, my father's eyes open and watching me. Mel, he says, his voice hoarse but stronger than I expected. You stayed. I straighten in the chair, wincing at the stiffness in my neck. Of course I stayed. How are you feeling? Like I've been hit by a truck, he says with a weak attempt at humor. But alive. Doctors seem surprised by that. I reach for his hand, careful to avoid disturbing the IV. You gave us quite a scare. He regards me with an intensity that makes me wonder if the memory T's effects are already wearing off. I had the strangest dreams during surgery, he says. About you. About mistakes I made years ago. I tense, uncertain how to respond. The anesthesia can do that, I say carefully. No, he says with quiet certainty. These weren't drug dreams, Melanie. They were memories, mine and somehow not mine. Warnings about paths not to take. So the memory tea hasn't completely erased his timeline awareness, just transformed it from immediate reality to a dreamlike state. Perhaps that's the real balance Mr. Chen spoke of. Not erasure, but integration, memories finding their proper perspective. I made a terrible mistake once, my father continues, his gaze drifting toward the window. Destroyed a man who trusted me, all for revenge over something I misunderstood. The same confession he made before surgery, but now delivered with reflective calm rather than urgent warning. I stay silent, letting him speak at his own pace. I never told anyone, he says. Carried it alone all these years, but in these dreams I saw you making similar choices, pursuing revenge that would poison everything it touched. They were just dreams, I say gently, still protecting the impossible truth of my rebirth. He turns back to me, his eyes clearer than they've been since his collapse. Were they? Because something's different about you this morning. Like a weight has lifted. His perception startles me. Even sedated, even with timeline memories blurred by the tea, he senses the change in my energy, my intent. Maybe it has, I acknowledge. Nearly losing you put things in perspective. He squeezes my hand weakly. Good. Hold on to that perspective. Whatever grudges you're carrying against Ryan, your sister, whoever, they're not worth the price they'll exact. The irony of receiving advice I've already taken doesn't escape me, but I nod anyway, grateful for the concern behind his words. I know, Dad. I'm letting it go. The door opens, and Emma appears with coffee and pastries, looking surprised to find our father awake and talking. You're supposed to be resting, she scolds, setting down her offerings to check his monitors. I've been doing nothing but resting, he grumbles, though without real annoyance. A man can have a conversation with his daughter. Emma's eyebrows rise at the affectionate tone. Our father was never demonstrative in either lifetime, especially not with me. Mom's parking the car, she says, shooting me a questioning look. She'll be up in a minute. I stand, stretching muscles stiff from sleeping in the chair. I should freshen up, I say, recognizing Emma's silent request for time alone with him. I'll be right back. In the hallway bathroom, I splash water on my face and study my reflection in the harsh fluorescent light. The person looking back at me seems different somehow. Less hard around the eyes, less tightly coiled with purpose. Is this what release from revenge looks like? This strange lightness? This uncertainty about what comes next? My phone buzzes with a new text from Ryan. Thinking about you and your father. Let me know if you need anything. When you're ready to talk again, I'll be here. Simple words, offering support without pressure. Nothing like the manipulative Ryan from my previous life who used emotional leverage to control situations. Another text arrives as I'm considering my response, this one from a number I don't recognize. The ripples calm when intent changes. Your father will recover more quickly than medical science can explain. Use this second chance wisely. Mr. Chen, confirming what I've already begun to understand. My decision to abandon revenge is creating immediate timeline adjustments, including my father's improved condition. The universe balancing accounts in real time as my intent shifts from punishment to what? I'm not yet sure. I text Ryan back. He's doing better this morning, surprisingly lucid. I'm not ready to talk yet, but soon. Thank you for understanding. His response comes quickly. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The simple reassurance brings unexpected comfort. Whatever happens between us, reconciliation, separation, something in between, at least the conversation will happen honestly, without the manipulation and deception that have characterized our relationship in both lifetimes. I return to my father's room to find my mother has arrived, all three of them engaged in quiet conversation that pauses when I enter. From their expressions, I suspect I was the topic. The doctor just left, my mother says. He's using words like remarkable and unexpected to describe your father's improvement overnight. That's great news, I say, genuine relief warming my voice. He still needs to take it easy, Emma cautions, ever the pragmatist. Recovery from bypass surgery is a long process. Our father waves a dismissive hand, though the movement clearly costs him effort. I'll follow doctor's orders, he promises. But let's not pretend this isn't a second chance I didn't expect to get. His choice of words strikes me. A second chance. The same terminology I've used for my rebirth. How much does he still subconsciously remember, despite the memory tease effects? Speaking of second chances, he continues, confirming my suspicion, I had an interesting call this morning from George Chen. The name sends a jolt through me. Mr. Chen called you? My father nods, oblivious to my shock. Haven't spoken to him in years, says he heard about my condition and wanted to check in. Mentioned he'd met you recently. My mother looks between us, curious. Who is George Chen? An old business acquaintance, my father says vaguely. Import-export business? Very successful. How do you know him, Mel? I struggle to find a plausible explanation that doesn't involve rebirth, time manipulation, or mystical tea houses. We met at an industry event, I say finally. I didn't realize you knew each other. My father's expression suggests he finds this explanation unlikely, but isn't going to challenge it. He asked about you specifically. Said you made quite an impression. Did he? It's not a question, but an acknowledgement of yet another connection I hadn't anticipated. Mr. Chen knows my father, has known him long enough to call him in the hospital. The revelation adds another layer to an already complex situation. He suggested we all have dinner when I'm recovered, my father continues. Said he has a business proposition that might interest us both. Emma glances between us, clearly sensing undercurrents she doesn't understand. What kind of proposition? He didn't specify, our father says, his eyes never leaving mine. Just said it involved balanced partnerships and second opportunities. The message couldn't be clearer. Mr. Chen is offering some kind of joint venture, likely designed to help stabilize my new path away from revenge. A business structure to replace the revenge structure that's defined my second life until now. I'd be interested in hearing more, I say cautiously. My father nods, satisfaction crossing his tired features. I thought you might be... He yawns suddenly, the brief surge of energy clearly fading. I think I need to rest now. My mother adjusts his pillows while Emma checks his medication schedule. I stand back, watching this family tableau with new eyes. In my previous life, my father's heart attack brought us closer despite our strained relationship. In this life, with the revenge abandoned and timeline stabilizing, perhaps we can build something stronger from the beginning of his recovery, rather than learning it slowly through crisis. I need to go home and change, I announce when he's settled comfortably. Then handle a few work matters. I'll be back this evening. My mother nods absently, too focused on my father to pay much attention. Emma, however, follows me into the hallway. Something's different, she says without preamble. Dad's different with you. You're different with everyone. What happened last night? I consider how much to tell her. How much she could possibly understand without the full context of rebirth and timeline manipulation. Let's just say I've had a change of perspective, I reply carefully. About what matters, about holding on to grudges. She studies me, skepticism clear in her expression. This about Ryan showing up last night? You two getting back together or something? No, I say, though with less certainty than I would have expressed yesterday. It's about realizing revenge is a poison that affects everyone, including the person seeking it. Revenge? Her eyebrows rise. That's a strong word for whatever post-breakup drama you've been having with Ryan. She couldn't know, how my orchestrated humiliation of Ryan and Lily was just the beginning of a comprehensive revenge plan that included her, Diana, even our parents. That the loan fraud documentation I've been holding over her head was part of a larger strategy to balance scales from my previous life. It's not just about Ryan, I say, deciding honesty, at least partial honesty, is the best approach. It's about patterns I've been repeating, ways I've been treating people who hurt me. Emma's expression softens slightly. Look, I know we haven't always been close, she begins, uncharacteristic vulnerability in her voice. And I haven't always been the most supportive sister. This is an understatement of epic proportions. In my previous life, Emma stood silently by when Ryan and Lily humiliated me at my engagement party. Later, when I was struggling financially after losing my job, she borrowed my identity for loans she never repaid, damaging my already precarious credit. But seeing dad like this, she continues, it makes you realize what's actually important: family, not stupid conflicts that won't matter in the long run. I stare at her, trying to reconcile this new Emma with the sister I've known across 2 lifetimes. Is this genuine growth on her part or another manipulation? I agree, I say cautiously, which is why I want you to know I'm destroying the documents about that loan you took out in my name. Her face drains of color. You knew about that. I've known for a while, I admit. Was holding it over your head, waiting for the right moment to use it against you. Why are you telling me this now? Her voice wavers between fear and confusion. Because I'm done with that approach, I say simply. It's not who I want to be anymore. Emma stares at me as if I've grown a second head. I don't understand you, Mel. First, you're this ruthless corporate climber who scares the hell out of everyone. Then overnight, you're Gandhi. The assessment makes me laugh despite everything. Not quite Gandhi, just someone who's realized revenge isn't worth the price it extracts. She shifts uncomfortably, clearly struggling with how to respond to this unexpected transparency. I was going to pay you back, she says finally, after the wedding, when David and I combined finances. It doesn't matter anymore, I tell her, and find I mean it. Just don't do it again, to me or anyone else. Emma nods, relief and lingering wariness mixing in her expression. I won't, I promise. It's a small step toward genuine reconciliation, but a significant one. In my previous life, Emma and I never repaired our relationship. The loan fraud coming after years of smaller betrayals that accumulated into permanent estrangement. I should go, I say, checking my watch. I have a meeting with Lily in an hour. Emma's eyebrows rise again. Lily? The friend who was kissing Ryan in that video? You're meeting with her now. Like I said, change of perspective. I offer a small smile. Besides, I'm not entirely innocent in that situation either. I leave her looking bewildered in the hospital corridor, making my way to the elevator with lighter steps than I've felt in years. The revenge that has defined my second chance is falling away piece by piece, leaving space for something new to grow in its place. What that something might be, I'm not yet certain. But as I step out into the morning sunshine, possibilities stretch before me like roads not yet traveled. Choices not determined by the past, but open to a future I'm finally free to create.